Okay, good evening, everybody. It looks like we're live finally, so a couple of things. Sorry for the late start tonight. We did sort of plan it. I guess I did plan that it would be a later start because I had somebody's birthday. It was an extremely pleasant gathering. One thing that's going to sound unbelievably sad, and it's not intended to, but since moving to Ottawa, I've kind of kept to myself. Like, I don't really do a lot of big social events. I will do things like the video game collective and I will be in sort of gatherings of people, but less things like birthday parties or just like generally sort of hanging out with groups of friends. Like I tend to be very focused on work, and I tend to be very focused on sort of little research projects or coding things or things that I like that I do. So in addition to the fact that, obviously it's kind of nice to hang out with people, like, and I wanted to show my support on the birthday. I did kind of want to make sure that I went out and like did something that was interacting with people in like a not like, I mean, the collective is fun and stuff like that, but like, these are a group of people who are like my friends, and I hang out and do stuff because I've been neglecting that. So it was not unexpectedly pleasant, but particularly pleasant. And obviously I imbibed a bit, which I don't normally like doing for stream. But, that's that's what happened. So it was really loud there, unfortunately, so my voice is going to be a little bit off. But I've had some water, and I did promise Mass Effect. I did say it would be a later start, but unfortunately, because it's an unusually late start, we may have to go a little shorter than normal. But let's try and make some progress inside the game. For those of you who don't know, on Twitter there is a very important poll going on about what you think the best big game publisher is. Currently, EA is in the lead, so if you guys would like to see a different option in the lead, definitely have your voice heard. And I'm going to take a quick minute here, so I think what I'd like to start off with, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to exhaust dialogue options with Joker and like generic crew, and then I think I'm going to take like one of my teammates. We'll try and get that done. Hey, Sean Bean SM. Excellent. If it doesn't let me vote on my own polls, but if I could, I would have chose EA as well. I'm really happy that you got to you got to come in. So because you came in right on time, you're probably gonna have to deal with me doing a bit of dialogue, which may or may not be particularly entertaining. So I'll try not to let it drag out too much. But I'm really happy that you got to see it. I was quite worried about the the time that I was starting, because I don't know what time you were planning to watch. But I'm really happy that you got to come in, because I actually did want to make sure that I covered this game today to make good on my promise.
Boy, am I glad to be off of Novaria. I don't know which was worse, the cold or the corporations. One will freeze your balls off, the other will sell them out from under you. With all due respect, Commander.
Yeah, this is one thing I should have remembered, is that if you talk to people after missions, they'll give you some commentary on it, so.
How's the Normandy performing? Is she everything they said she'd be?
She's the best ship in the fleet, if you've got a pilot who knows how to handle her.
You're so important, Joker.
Takes a while to get used to that oversized drive core we got stuffed in the back, and her power can sneak up on you if you're not careful. The Normandy's probably too much ship for your average Alliance pilot, Commander. Lucky for you, I'm anything but average.
You're below average.
I like to know my crew. Mind if I ask you a few questions?
I can see where this is going. You did a background check on me, didn't you? Well, I'll tell you the same thing I told the captain. You want me as your pilot. I'm not good. I'm not even great. I am the best damn helmsman in the Alliance fleet. Top of my class in flight school, I earned that. All those commendations in my file, I earned every single one. Those weren't given to me as charity for my disease.
What are you talking about? Are you sick?
You mean you didn't know? Oh, crap. Okay, I've got Vrolik syndrome, brittle bone disease. The bones in my legs never develop properly. They're basically hollow, too much force and they'll shatter. Even with crutches and my leg braces, it's hard to get around. One wrong step and crack! It's very dramatic. But I've learned to manage my condition, Commander. Put the Normandy in my hands and I'll make her dance for you. Just don't ask me to get up and dance unless, you like the sound of snapping shin bones.
Octavian Zero, thank you very much for that auto host. You've got a very dedicated number of people who always come along on these, so thank you very much for that. I don't know if I'll get a chance to see you inside the cast, but I appreciate that as always. For those of you who don't know Octavian Zero, big Path of Exile streamer, one of the people who the Eyes of Sin brought in to the cast. She has unbelievable contacts among the Twitch community, and she has done a lot to sort of bring this stream out to people who wouldn't otherwise experience it. This is a neat little character thing, because I don't know if you guys ever saw, there was a remake of the movie The Fly in the 1980s by a Canadian filmmaker named David Cronenberg. It starred Jeff Goldblum. And one of the things that was sort of interesting about that character, so for those of you generally unfamiliar with the plot of The Fly, basically there is a scientist who is developing what is basically a teleportation technology. And there's sort of a fly that comes in into one of these teleportation pods, and when he comes out, his DNA has sort of blended with the fly's, and he winds up sort of being transformed into this monster. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting about the way that the Cronenberg remake of The Fly handled it, the character Jeff Goldblum plays gets carsick, and his character is written to have sort of this background. Like, so basically the implication here about why he pursues this teleportation technology is because for him, any kind of fast motion results in him being really sick. So as a result, he tends to stay inside a lot more. He, he doesn't like traveling in cars. So lots of time dedicated towards study, and he would obviously have a particular interest in the realization of some kind of teleportation technology. And so I don't know if this is, I'm sure this is just a pretty ordinary character convention, but a very similar parallel in terms of Joker, who has his brittle bones in his legs, but realizes his ambitions through mechanical means, through technological means, in the form of the Normandy.
I need to know more about this Vrolik syndrome if I'm putting my ship in your hands.
Yeah, of course you do. It's an extremely rare condition. Nobody knows exactly what causes it. Genetic, maybe. It's treatable, but there's no cure. I classify my case as moderate to severe. I was born with over a dozen fractures, hip, thighs, ankles. My bones were already breaking in the womb. 100 years ago, I wouldn't have survived past my first year. Lucky for me, modern medical science has turned me into a productive member of society.
You're not gonna break a bone trying to fly the ship, are you?
I don't fly with my feet, Commander, so I'm fine as long as I'm in this chair. I gotta be real careful when I get up to take a piss, though. I can do my job as well as anyone on the ship. Better, actually. So don't worry about it.
This is actually another really fun thing about... So I didn't entirely like the tone that they did the character through. But this is a really neat little bit of information on Joker, because I didn't know this from the second game. And so, I've always found Joker a bit off-putting because of his bravado. And yet, obviously, to have him as sort of a disabled character who really does, as is sort of demonstrated by this dialogue, somebody who carries this sort of assumption that his accomplishment...
Not trying to make you uncomfortable. Let's talk about something else.
Whatever you want, Commander.
This assumption that his commendations are more a result of pity or whatever. obviously a lot of the factors that I find off-putting about this character are actually simply him coping with the fact that people have always sort of undermined him. That's a really neat little bit of biography. Hello, the Eyes of Sin. Octavian just gave us a very healthy host. I don't know if I scared everybody off, but a thank you to him is also a thank you to you, because I know you have been an amazing ambassador for this stream.
Why does everyone call you Joker?
It's a lot shorter than saying Alliance Flight Lieutenant Jeff Moreau. Plus, I love to make little children laugh.
You're dodging the question.
Look, I didn't pick the name. One of the instructors in flight school used to bug me about never smiling. She started calling me Joker, and it stuck.
Why didn't you ever smile?
Hey, I worked my ass off in flight school, Commander. The world's not gonna hand you anything if you go around grinning like an idiot. By the end of the year, I was the best pilot in the academy, even better than the instructors, and everybody knew it. They'd all got their asses kicked by the sickly kid with the creaky little legs. One guess who was smiling at graduation?
How'd you end up joining the Alliance?
Look, if you're looking for an inspirational tale of the crippled kid overcoming impossible odds, you're gonna be disappointed. My mother was a civilian contractor working for the Alliance. I basically grew up on the Arcturus station back when they were building up the fleets. Spend all that time around Alliance ships, there's a good chance you'll end up going to the Academy.
Hey, Last Geek Plays, how you doing?
I have to go.
Alright, see ya.
One thing I've always sort of liked about Mass Effect, I think I talked about this on a previous stream as well, I do like the fact that when you go and learn more about this world, either through dialogue with the characters or getting codices, that it gives you experience. It's a nice little way where it's like, you know, don't just read this because, you know, we hired some writers and they're going to be sad if you don't look at their work. But the game just gives you a little reward for exploring.
If anyone has to take over for Captain Anderson, I'm glad it's you. I'm not sure about having non-humans on our ship, though.
That's racist.
We're all on the same team here, Presley.
With all due respect, ma'am, that's what they said about Nihilus. Look how that turned out.
I'm in charge here, Presley. I decide if we have non-humans on this vessel.
Yes, ma'am. Understood, ma'am.
Speak freely, Presley. I want to know if you have a problem with non-humans.
It's not that, Commander. Humanity has always handled its own problems. Saren attacked one of our colonies. We should be the ones to stop him. We don't need their help.
Some people think asking for help is a sign of weakness. That's just being stupid and stubborn. No matter how strong you are, allies can make you stronger.
I guess so. Maybe I'm just stuck in the old ways of thinking. But don't worry, Commander. This won't be a problem.
How did you end up assigned to the Normandy?
I signed up with the Alliance as a navigator right out of school. Following in my grandfather's footsteps, I guess. My first posting was on the Agincourt. We were one of the first reinforcements to arrive at Elysium after the Blitz hit. And those raiders were no match for an Alliance frigate. Of course, the only reason the colony was still standing was because of you, Commander. I can't believe you held out as long as you did.
How'd you end up on the Normandy?
I got my officer's commission after Elysium. Must have made an impression on the right people. Captain asked for me when he was picking his crew.
How did you end up assigned to the Normandy?
We already did this.
I signed up with the Alliance as a navigator right out of school. We were one of them. Of course, the only reason the colony was still standing was because of you, Commander. I can't believe you held out as long as you did.
Carry on, Presley.
Yes, ma'am.
I got the renegade points for saying, you need to follow my orders. I don't think there's anything in terms of comms for us, but yeah. So there's going to be a little, I don't know if I'll do the codex entries. If you guys would like to hear some, I'll gladly do them, but it's not a bad idea to get some of the character dialogue out of the way. I think what I'll do, I'll have a chat in the med bay. I think that's the last sort of non-core character, and I think what I'll do is I'll talk with Liara as my representative for the day. So Caden's a playable character. Well, not a playable, you know what I mean. Is a squad mate. So I'll probably go. I can't remember the doctor's name offhand. I'll have to remember. Oh yes, I was also gonna kid everyone out. So, what kind of shepherd am I playing? Last Geek Plays, I decide. So this is my very first time playing Mass Effect 1, sort of the full way through. We're probably on like our third or fourth stream. So I don't have a strong view on a particular shepherd that I need to play. So I won't automatically go for all of the Paragon or all the Renegade options. But my view is that as much as I enjoy dark and gritty, like, you know, Christopher Nolan remake of Batman style heroes, I've decided that sometimes you just need to have an unambiguously heroic good character. And so in this case, I'm going to be going for a largely Paragon shepherd, though not at the expense of not at the expense of making, say, like what I feel are dramatically inappropriate decisions. So I don't know, like if there's a renegade op, so like a good example on this would be, it's like I say that we go with the aliens. I don't feel bad about picking that particular option because I happen to think that that's actually the right call. But yeah, basically, what I'm playing is probably most resembling a pretty standard Paragon playthrough for most people. But I really do enjoy playing this game because of the... Oh, wow. So it looks like the Striker 4 is strictly better than the Avenger in every possible way. And of course the Striker 5 will be even better. So Slate, I would basically be going back to my equal... so that is a pretty big damage bonus to go for the Equalizer. But I do lose 9 points of accuracy. I think I'm going to go with this for now. It's tempting to go for the extra shields, but... Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. Dr. Chokvas.
Yes, Commander? Is there something you need?
How did you end up serving on an Alliance ship?
I enlisted right out of med school. Earth always seemed boring to me. Too safe, too secure. I figured the colonies were teeming with exotic adventure. I wanted to travel the stars, tending the wounds of tough soldiers with piercing eyes and sensitive souls. Turns out military life isn't quite as romantic as I'd imagined.
Are my eyes
Humanity
piercing?
needs the Alliance if we want to keep expanding through the Traverse, and the Alliance always needs good doctors. So I stayed on to do my part.
Ever think you made the wrong choice?
Sometimes I think about opening a private practice back on Earth, or maybe taking a position at one of the new med centers out in the colonies. But there's something special about working on soldiers. If I left the Alliance now, I'd feel like I was abandoning them.
How well do you know the Lieutenant?
I'd never worked with him before this mission, but he has an impressive service record, over a dozen special commendations. Tends to keep to himself, though. Maybe because of the headaches. It's not easy being an L2.
I think we've already done this
What does
line,
that
actually.
have to do with it?
Well, most biotics now use the L3 implants. Lieutenant Alenko was wired with the old L2 configuration. Sometimes there are complications.
What kind of complications?
Severe mental disabilities, insanity, crippling physical pain. There's a long list of horrific side effects. Caden's lucky. He just gets migraines.
I should go.
Goodbye, Commander.
Alright, let's have a chat with Liara. And then I think I'm gonna kit out my guys. We'll see if there's a few codex entries we can go through, but I am a little short on time.
If you are here to talk about Benezia's death, you need not bother. She brought it upon herself.
Don't pretend it doesn't bother you. She was your mother.
She was. But she was not. I prefer to remember Benezia as she used to be, before she was corrupted by Sovereign's power.
The best of your mother lives on in you. Her determination, her intelligence, her strength.
That is kind of you to say. I appreciate your concern, but I am fine. Benezia chose her path, just as I have chosen mine. I am with you until the end, Shepard.
Tell me about yourself, Liara.
Me? I am afraid I am not very interesting, Commander. I spend most of my time on remote digs, unearthing mundane items buried in long-forgotten Prothean ruins.
Sounds dangerous. And lonely.
Sometimes I would run afoul of indigenous life forms or stumble across a small band of mercenaries or privateers. But I was always careful. Until the Geth followed me to Artemis Tau. I never found myself in any situation my biotics could not handle. As for the solitude, well, that is one aspect that most appealed to me. Sometimes I just need to get away from other people.
You don't like other people?
I suppose it comes from being a matriarch's daughter. People expected me to follow in Benezia's footsteps. They wanted me to become a leader of our people. Matriarchs guide their followers into the future. They seek the truth of what is yet to come. Maybe that's why I became so interested in the secrets of the past. It sounds so foolish when I say it out loud. It sounds like I became an archaeologist simply to spite Benezia.
All children rebel against their parents. It's a natural part of growing up.
Aha, you share the wisdom of the matriarch, Shepard. That is exactly what Benezia said when I told her of my decision. But there was more to it than that. I felt drawn to the past. The Protheans were these wondrous, mysterious figures. I wanted to know everything about them. That is why I find you so fascinating. You were marked by the beacon on Eden Prime. You were touched by working Prothean technology.
Sounds like you want to dissect me in a lab somewhere.
What? No! I did not mean to insinuate. I never meant to offend you, Shepard. I only meant that you would be an interesting specimen for an in-depth study. No, that's even worse.
Calm down, Liara. I was only joking.
Joking? Oh, by the goddess, how could I be so dense? You must think I am a complete and utter fool.
Now I do.
Now you know why I prefer to spend my time in the field with data disks and computers. I always seem to say something embarrassing around other people. Please, just pretend this conversation never happened.
I'm not sure if that trope of a character had been around at the time that was written, but I was definitely trying to suppress my reaction to the usual. There's a. You know what? I'm not going to rant about this character in Newsroom.
I'd like to know more about the Asari.
We were the first species to discover the Citadel. We were instrumental in forming the Council, and we always strive to be the voice of peaceful cooperation in galactic disputes. My people believe we are all part of a single galactic community.
You see
Each
this?
species contributes something to the greater whole. Although we seek to understand other species, it seems few of them seek to understand us. The galaxy is filled with rumors and misinformation about my people.
Like what?
Most of the inaccuracies are centered around our mating rituals. My species is monogendered. Male and female have no real meaning for us. We still require a partner to reproduce. This second parent, however, may be of any species and any gender.
That's disgusting!
I don't understand. Your species can mate with anyone?
Mating is not quite the proper term, not as you understand it. Physical contact may or may not be involved, but it is not an essential element of the union. The true connection is mental. Our physiology allows us to meld with other beings. We can touch the very depths of their minds. We explore the genetic memory of their species. We share the most basic elements of their individual and racial identities. We then pass these traits on to our daughters. It is how we learn to grow as a species and how we develop a greater understanding of other races.
What happens to your partner after the union?
Every relationship is different. Some unions are a single encounter with both parents parting ways afterwards. Others can be more long-term. Sometimes an Asari and her partner will stay together for many decades.
Do you know who Matriarch Benezia chose as her partner?
She rarely spoke of her partner. Though I know my father, if you want to use that term, was another Asari.
thought you always needed another species to serve as one of the parents.
Think about it, Shepard. If we were not able to mate with our own species, we would have died out long before we ever mastered spaceflight and left our homeworld. Union with our own kind is no longer common, not for the purposes of reproduction. Most Asari believe it weakens our species. Asari daughters inherit racial traits from the father species. If both parents are Asari, then nothing has been gained, or so conventional wisdom would hold. I am what is sometimes called a pureblood. Though no Asari would ever be cruel enough to say the word to my face, it is a great insult among my people. It is possible Benezia's partner was embarrassed by their union. She may have been too ashamed to publicly acknowledge me as her offspring.
So that's a really fun idea. Like, obviously, when you take the conversation that we had with Presley, and then just generally some of the intolerance that we experience as the human species, and clearly now we're having a lot of conversations in terms of immigration and borders and such. So when you have something like the Asari, and you completely invert that, and sort of have the idea of this sort of this unity, or this staying within your own kind being an insult. See, one of the things I like about this is that they don't really need to like hammer you over the head with it, but it's a fun little idea where it's like, oh wow, so you take that idea and you turn it on your head, and what do you get as a result of that? And it's just kind of so interesting to see just sort of see there's like a thread that they kind of take, and then if you can keep pulling on it as long as you want and just learn a little bit more about the Asaris, and you can build this interesting kind of conception around the Asaris as a result. And of course, there's other implications. So the idea of, the understanding that because Asari prefer to mate with other species, I'm assuming there's kind of an assumption of promiscuity, which may not necessarily be true for them. It's one of the things I actually really like about this game, and it's something that was pretty apparent from Mass Effect 2.
Maybe she wanted to meet you but couldn't. Maybe something could have happened to her. Maybe she passed away.
You might be right. I hope you are. But I have no way to know for sure. Benezia never spoke of her partner. Whatever happened, it caused her too much pain to dwell on it. She raised me by herself, though that is not uncommon. Many Asari raise their children alone, particularly if the father species is short-lived. Often the partner will pass on long before the child reaches maturity.
I'm assuming too this is kind of the elf equivalent in the space fantasy.
You Asari live for 1,000 years. What happens when your partner dies?
Few sapient species live as long as my kind. We have learned to take a philosophical approach to our unions. We do not focus on the inevitable loss of our partners. Instead, we enjoy the time we spend with them. And even after they're gone, a part of them lives on in us. The union is a connection that transcends both time and space.
All right. Did I check out?
Do you know why Benezia joined up with Saren?
Benezia was swept up in events beyond her control and lost herself. She fell under the spell of indoctrination and became part of the very thing she wanted to stop. But I will remember and honor how she lived, not how she died. My mother was strong, kind, and beautiful, and now she is gone.
Are you gonna be okay?
You are kind to ask, Shepard. I do miss her, and I grieve for what happened to her. But I will not let my grief interfere with what we are trying to accomplish.
I should go.
Goodbye, Shepard.
All right. So you've got one more sort of place to head down to. The main reason for that is so I can clear out some inventory. So basically what I want to do is try and get a bit of an ideal setup for my squad, and then I'm basically going to gel everything that I don't keep. So one of the dilemmas I have, I don't think I'm going to be able to Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to see what the points of the rest of my squad is, so I don't remember who gets what. I know Garrus does assault rifles, so we might as well start him off with the Avenger 5. I'm assuming that, I think Ashley was also an assault rifle. I'm assuming the Krogan... Oh, actually, Tali's good with a shotgun, too. Yeah, it's, I really like the writing, and it's funny too because, like, I'm pretty picky with this kind of stuff. Like, I am really quick, and I'm trying to limit this tendency in myself, because I actually think it's really disrespectful, and I should learn to sort of rein this in. But, like, I'm really quick to sort of, I don't know, like, mock a game for, you know, I think maybe for, like, lack of a better term, like, trying to reach for a particular concept or idea and, like, missing it. But, like, I don't know, I've enjoyed these exchanges quite a bit. Just trying to think. The Raptor's probably what I want to go for. Let's see how it compares to... So the Tsunami, slightly fewer shots, lower accuracy. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So I've got a Storm 3, and then let's see how it compares to the others. Pretty much everything is better. So I'll give her the Firestorm just because it's a, I've got an extra one. Okay, so I'll start with the Banshee 3 and then we'll see where we can go. I guess Raptor's where I want. So basically, I'm starting with the weapons loadouts. It's not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but Kessler, I already gave that away. Stinger looks good. Actually, I got a lot of Stingers, so. I technically gave Garrus the best gun. I'm really tempted to give him the Equalizer. Yep. Thing is, I'm never going to use anything other than Tali and Liara. Pretty sure I gave him a shotgun already, so we're on a Kessler. We already gave up the Kessler, so let's give him something with a lot of punch. Looks like 177's the best I can do here. Stiletto it is. We already gave her. So thunder or tsunami. Okay. So now I'm just going to gel out every other... So basically the idea here is that I've given the ideal weapon to every character, so I don't need to worry about any of the remaining ones, and this will help us with our inventory problems. I really wish there was a hotkey for this. This will help us out with our inventory problems that we ran into last mission. Although, I think I said I was going to do this on my own time and I ran out of time, so apologies for that. The one exception might be for, I think it's the pistol. Because there was a level 5 pistol, which I wasn't sure if I could make work for some of my people. So I'll maybe do one last round of that. Yeah, so the Striker 5. So in this case, it's strictly dominated by the Raikou, but I'm just going to make sure that that's true for everyone. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave all the level 4 stuff for my team. Delete all button? Yeah. I mean, like, I know, so when you pick stuff up, you can gel all of it, but you can't compare it to what you have. And I know some people comment that it's too close to the pick up all button, so like you accidentally gel all the new cool stuff that you would have wanted. So I don't know, it's one of these things. So I was actually thinking about this the other day. So I don't know if any of you have played a game called Frozen Synapse. Actually, I don't. So somebody corrected me like forever, saying that it's Synapse, not Synapse. But then I heard a Cambridge professor talking, and he said Synapse. So I don't know what to make of my life anymore. I think the Striker is strictly dominant. I should double check my own loadout before I go too crazy on this. Oh yeah, I totally could have equipped a better rifle, or assault rifle. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, so what was it? Frozen Frozen Synapse it's a pretty good game, and one of the things that I found so interesting about that game is it's sort of a remake of an old Julian Gollop game. So most people know Julian Gollop through the original XCOM Enemy Unknown, although he also did the third game, XCOM Apocalypse, and his new game coming out is Phoenix Point, so he's kind of returning to familiar territory. What I thought was so interesting about Frozen Synapse is Mode 7, the company behind it, is pretty open in saying that basically it was Laser Squad Nemesis that was the inspiration. And what they did was kind of update it to sort of more modern conventions, maybe more modern UI, let's say. And I think it's totally fine to do that. I think that's actually how we make progress in games. But I think what's so interesting to me is that it feels sort of like there's a whole industry to be made, or like a whole like I kind of feel like there's some money to be made in taking some games that are really good at like, so you have like some classic games, right? So like, you know, when first-person shooters come out, like you know, around the time of Quake, like everybody is making these kinds of games, and like, you know, it's like, oh, is the real-time strategy genre dead? And then, you know, everybody gets really sick of first-person shooters, and then, yeah, so I mean, I might as well give them a Reaper. you know, then like a good strategy game comes out and everybody gets sick of so don't have the biotic protection, but this is generally better, so. So yeah, what seems to be interesting though is that there's kind of this, like, there seems to be a place for indies to basically say, hey, remember that really good game that you played? Like, it's that, but, you know, the user. So like the one problem with some of the classic games, and I say this as someone who loves classic games, one of the real problems is that the user interfaces are particularly unfriendly. And that's fine, that's the way it should be, because, you know, we've got progress. Like, if the user interfaces weren't better than before, then that would mean that we've simply had no improvements, and I don't think anybody wants that for gaming. So in this case, like, it feels like Frozen Synapse has taken a game that was popular and good, and they, you know, they kind of gave it a new coat of paint, and as a result, so I don't really like leaving 1 point lost of biotic protection in exchange for, yeah, this feels like the right thing to get. But yeah, so like basically put a new coat of paint on it, and it winds up being a pretty darn good game. And I kind of wonder how many more games like that we're gonna see. Because I sort of feel like, I don't know, I feel like it just feels like, sorry, I'm kind of stumbling over myself, but like, it feels like one of the easiest and most obvious, like it's a known quantity, it's this thing that everybody really enjoyed, so, you know, why wouldn't you opt into that? And yet, you know, clearly there's so many games that we, like, if I think of a game like Dark Legions, I've never really seen a modern take on that. But on the other hand, you take a game like XCOM. XCOM Enemy Unknown is very different from the Julian Gollop game. Like, the Julian Gollop game had action points, it had a manageable inventory, so it's a little bit like Diablo inventory management when you play the game. If one of your soldiers died, you could like pick up the items that they were carrying, including like their weapon and things like that. And they all made the game really interesting in those regards, but it was also very cumbersome. And I think one of the really smart things about, I'm gonna equip Liara and Tali for, actually let me just take a quick look for myself for my armor. So duelist is not what I want. But yeah, like, one of the things that's so great about XCOM Enemy Within is, you know, it has all of the good things from the original game. So like that core sort of experience of XCOM is still there, but they were not afraid to, you know, they were not afraid to sort of run out and do their own thing. Sort of say, it's like, you know, do we really need an inventory management system is a great example of this. Or, you know, procedurally generated maps is actually another good example, because I know that was like I believe that was one of like Jake Solomon's, like, you know, you'll take my procedural generations from me, you know, pry it from my cold dead hands kind of a condition. But, you know, in the end, like, I don't know about you guys, like, I think XCOM's a spectacular game. Well, clearly, I mean, you guys have been watching me play it for so long. Yeah, I don't know, like, it's, the more I think about it, like, when I think about some of my favorite games that I've played lately, a lot of them really have come down to these, like, a lot of these really have come down to, like, you know, this was an older game which clearly someone loved, and they wound up, you know, they just wound up sort of acknowledging that there's been like game design that has happened since you know, since this thing was generated. Like, you know, the world has moved on. And I don't know, I feel like one thing that I really like about it is that we're reaping the benefit of that, in the sense that we're getting some of the best games from, you know, the old ways. But they are... I'm trying to come up with the right way. Like, they're being presented in more approachable ways. So a great example of this would be, I don't think Rex is ever actually going to use a sniper rifle, but if he does, it'll be glorious. Sure. And sorry, I know I'm sort of rambling here, but what is this again? It's a shotgun. Yeah, so you think of something like Stellaris. This is actually a pretty decent... I think this is a pretty decent example here. Like, Stellaris has not removed any of the... the complexity of a... like, of a paradox strategy game. And yet, it... I'm running out of stuff to put in. Poor Ashley's not going to have anything left for her weapons. So, like, you have a game like Stellaris, and in this particular case, where is the... do I not have... Yeah, so, like, basically, the great example of this would be a game like Stellaris. Because in the case of Stellaris, you have a game where you have lots of things that you can do. And in addition to... like, so it's... you have a level of complexity in terms of systems, but your ability to interact with them is relatively straightforward compared to, say, if you play the original Europa Universalis or something like that. And I think, like, the more I sort of reflect on... the more I reflect on that, and, like, the more I think about how... you know, when I play some of the games on GOG, I'm like, you know, I really like this game because I have, like, wonderful memories of playing this thing, but, like, when I sit down and think about it, it's like, you know, I can't... like, so a great example would be for RPGs. Like, I generally like the way that Mass Effect handles its dialogue. You know, this is a really good example of how, you know, having dialogue trees is not like, this is not an innovation of Mass Effect, but they've presented it in a nice tidy little way that is like, okay, I have roughly an idea about how people are going to react to these particular decisions. I'm gonna gel it. Oh my god, no! Ah! I didn't think that was equipped. I thought that was a separate item. Okay. And I guess I'm gonna keep all the armor for now. But yeah, anyways, sorry, I'm kind of rambling because I'm trying to focus on the game as well. But yeah, basically, being able to experience all of these classic games, which again, I like playing on GOG, but I definitely sort of have this, I'm playing it and I'm enjoying it because of the memories that I have rather than the inherent benefits of the title. I like the fact that basically the tools of game design are simple enough now that people who enjoyed that game in the past can sort of play, like they can do sort of a Unity version, a spiritual successor to it, and they're basically able to take these really good game systems and put them in these much nicer packages. And the graphics don't even need to be improved. It's just the ability of a player to be able to reach those systems through their
Hey, Commander,
their
you know that
their
Gamorrean
interfaces.
Tally?
Sorry.
She's been spending all her time down here asking me about our engines.
I'll tell her to leave you alone.
What? No, she's amazing. I wish my guys were half as smart as she is. Give her a month on board and she'll know more about our engines than I do. She's got a real knack for technology, that one. I can see why you wanted her to come along.
And I agree with you too, Isaacson.
figured
I
she'd
was
be a
just too
real
busy
asset to
falling
the
over
team.
my words.
You got an eye for Tally, Commander, but I'm guessing that's not why you came down here.
Fill me in on the IES stealth system. How does it work exactly?
You can't hide a ship out in space. They emit too much heat and radiation. Too easy for sensors to pick them up, unless you find a way to capture those emissions. So our stealth systems trap the energy we give off in storage sinks built into the ship itself. No emissions to give away our location. Eventually the sinks have to be vented. More than a few hours silent running and they overheat. Cook us inside our own hull.
There's no way for anyone to detect us?
A visual scan can still pick us up. Anyone looking out a window can see us plain as day. But you have to be pretty close to get an actual visual out in space. Most vessels rely on scanners. As long as the stealth systems are engaged, they can't see us. Not unless we accelerate to FTL speeds.
Why doesn't it work with faster-than-light travel?
Cranking up the FTL blue shifts our emissions, pushes them into frequencies too high to capture in the sinks. As soon as we make the jump, it's like setting off a flare. Sensors can pick up our location whenever we enter or exit FTL flight, but for short-range missions, our stealth systems are amazing, and we've got the only one.
I want to know more about the Normandy.
She's the best ship I've ever served on, probably the fastest vessel ever designed. She's the only one using the new Tantalus drive core.
What's so special about the Tantalus drive core?
Proportionally, it's about twice the size of any other vessel. Not only are we faster, we can run at FTL speeds longer before we have to discharge the core.
Where else have you served, Adams?
If you name a class of Alliance ship, I've probably served on it. Everything from dreadnoughts and carriers right down to frigates like the Normandy. My last assignment was on the Tokyo, only a cruiser, but she was a good ship. Couldn't hold a candle to the Normandy, though.
Carry on, Adams.
Aye, aye, Commander.
I do kind of like that these dialogue snippets are short. So I'm gonna have a chat with Tali, and then
Your ship's amazing, Shepard. I've never seen a drive core like this before. I can't believe you were able to fit it into a ship this small. I'm starting to understand why you humans have been so successful. I had no idea Alliance vessels were so advanced.
The Normandy's a prototype, cutting-edge technology.
A month ago, I was patching a makeshift fuel line into a converted tug ship in the flotilla. Now, I'm sitting on board one of the most advanced vessels in Citadel space. I have to thank you again for bringing me along. Traveling on a vessel like this is a dream come true for me.
I love
No
this
idea you found
character.
Ship technology so interesting.
It comes with being a Quarian. The migrant fleet is the key to the survival of my people. Ships are our most valuable resource. But we don't have anything like this. We make do with cast-offs and second-hand equipment. We just try to keep them running for as long as we can. Some of the fleet's larger vessels date all the way back to our original flight from the Geth.
I can't believe your fleet's still using ships that are 3 centuries old.
They're constantly being repaired, modified, and refitted. They aren't pretty, but they work. Mostly. We've tried to make ourselves as independent as possible on the flotilla. Grow our own food, mine, and process our own fuel. But some things we just can't make on our own. A patch to maintain the hull integrity requires raw materials we just don't have. That's why our pilgrimages are so important.
Tell me about your people.
Our lives aren't easy. Resources are scarce, and we are constantly on the move. Everything we do must in some way contribute to the continuation of the migrant fleet. There are 17 million Quarians in the flotilla, and each of us relies on the others for survival. The bonds among my people are strong. Unfortunately, we have had to surrender many of the freedoms and civil liberties other species take for granted.
What kind of freedoms?
Well, it's illegal for parents to have more than one child. If our population grows too much, it would strain our resources to their breaking point. Of course, we also can't allow our numbers to become too few. If our population is in decline, the rule against single births is temporarily repealed. In extreme cases of population decline, incentives are even offered to encourage multiple births, though the Conclave hasn't had to take such measures in nearly a century.
That's your government.
The Conclave is our civilian branch of government. Each ship can elect a representative to serve on the Conclave and make decisions that affect the fleet as a whole. On matters that affect an individual ship, however, the captain has the final say. It's a tradition that dates back to the early days, when the fleet was governed by martial law. Fortunately, most captains nowadays are smart enough to have an elected council from their crew to give them advice and guidance.
So the ultimate power rests with elected officials?
In practice, the Conclave and the respective council for each ship tend to set the rules that govern our daily lives. But in theory, we are still under military jurisdiction. The 5 top-ranking military officials in the fleet serve on the Admiralty Board. These 5 have the power to overrule any decision by the Conclave in case of emergency. To do so requires unanimous agreement among the Admiralty, and they can only do this once. After that, the entire board must resign their posts. It's a safeguard that served us well. In nearly 3 centuries, the Admiralty Board has only overruled the Conclave 4 times.
I want to know more about the pilgrimage.
When my people reach maturity, we leave our birth ships and seek acceptance with a new crew. It's necessary to maintain genetic diversity among the fleet. But no ship wants to accept someone who will be a burden on them. So, to prove our worth, we embark on a pilgrimage. We set out alone, leaving the flotilla and our families behind us. We only return once we have found something of value we can bring back to the fleet. This is presented as a gift to the captain of the respective ship we wish to join. If the gift is accepted, we are welcomed into the crew.
Can a captain choose to reject the gift?
That doesn't happen often. Most captains are eager to increase the size of their crew. It increases their own standing in our society. Even when a gift is not particularly valuable, the captain usually accepts it out of a sense of tradition. However, there is a stigma to presenting a substandard gift. It's not the best way to make a good impression on a new community. Most pilgrims don't return until they find something worthwhile.
I can't believe they just send you off alone.
It's not like they just cast us out. Before we leave, we are given lessons in how to survive outside the flotilla, and given gifts to help us on our journey. We also receive implants to fight off sickness and disease. Generations of living in an isolated and highly controlled environment have left our immune systems weaker than most. By the time we leave the fleet, we are well equipped for the pilgrimage. This is a rite of passage for all Quarians. If it were dangerous, our numbers would suffer. Virtually every pilgrimage ends with a triumphant return and the ritual presentation of the gift to one of the fleet's captains.
I want to talk about something else.
Like what?
I want to know more about the Geth.
I doubt I can tell you anything you don't already know. It's been almost 3 centuries since they drove my people into exile. All I know is the story of their origins. What they were when we created them, and how they turned on us.
Interesting.
The Geth were originally created to serve as an automated manual labor force. Initially, their intelligence was as limited as any VI. Over time, we made small modifications to their programming to allow them to perform more varied and complex tasks, bringing them closer and closer to true AI status.
How come the Council didn't step in and stop you?
This wasn't true AI research. We may have been skirting the bounds of the law, but we never did anything that was actually illegal. The changes were so insignificant, so gradual, that we were able to control them. Or so we thought. But one thing we underestimated was the power of the neural network. 1 million Geth thinking simultaneously created an inherently unstable matrix.
So the Geth share brain power?
Many of the Geth's logic systems were designed to work in concert with other nearby Geth. Basically, the more of them you have in a group, the smarter they are.
So there's some sort of group consciousness?
No, nothing like that. They cannot share sensory data or information. Their programming cannot handle that much simultaneous input. Each Geth maintains an individual awareness and identity. The neural network only operates on a process-based level. It's basically the synthetic equivalent of a subconscious. But when they're in close proximity, they can coordinate low-level functional processes, freeing up more capacity for original or independent thought.
That doesn't make any sense.
I'm probably oversimplifying. The Geth are incredibly advanced and complex creations. All you need to know is that they get smarter when they gather in large numbers. As we built more and more Geth, their effective intelligence became more sophisticated, more abstract. One day, a Geth began to ask its Quarian overseer questions about the nature of its existence. Am I alive? Why am I here? What is my purpose? As you can imagine, this caused a near panic among my people.
Yeah, I spoke too soon, Sean Bean. I find this really interesting. I really like the character Tali and just generally the idea of the species.
I don't see what's so bad about those questions.
The Geth were created to engage in mundane, repetitive, or dangerous manual labor. That's fine for machines, but it won't satisfy a sentient being for long. The Geth were showing signs of rudimentary self-awareness and independent thought. If the Geth were intelligent, then we were essentially using them as slaves. It was inevitable the newly sentient Geth would rebel against their situation. We knew they would rise up against us, so we acted first. A general order went out across all Quarian-controlled systems to permanently deactivate all Geth. The Geth responded to this order violently.
Hey, you can't blame them for fighting for their survival.
We had no other choice. The Geth were already on the verge of revolution. By acting quickly, we had a chance to end the war before it began. The hope was that most of the Geth would still be little more than machines, incapable of organized resistance. But they had progressed much further than anyone anticipated. The war was long and bloody. Millions upon millions of Quarians died at their hands. In the end, we were forced to flee our own homeworld. We feared the Geth would pursue us, but they never came beyond the Veil. Now we drift through space, exiled, searching for a way to reclaim what was once ours.
It's hard to feel sorry for you. Your ancestors tried to wipe out another species.
We made a mistake when we created the Geth in the first place, but we did not make a mistake when we went to war against them. If we had not acted, they would have wiped us out. They're a synthetic life form. They have no use for organics. None. Why do you think they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy? Why do you think they've killed every organic being who's ever tried to contact them?
didn't mean to offend you.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get so worked up. Most Quarians tend to have pretty strong opinions about the Geth.
I should go.
See you later.
I don't kind of like when I'm made to say those dialogue options that are obviously more offensive, but I kind of want to see where it all goes, so I do it anyway. Once we get up to the higher level... Yeah, I really like it when I say I should go after I've said something, like, kind of bad. Alright, let's do really quick codex.
50,000 years. Though now extinct, the Rachni once threatened every species in Citadel space. Over 2,000 years ago, explorers foolishly opened a mass relay to a previously unknown system, and encountered something never seen before or since, a species of spacefaring insects guided by a hive mind intelligence. Unfortunately, the Rachni were not peaceful, and the galaxy was plunged into a series of conflicts known as the Rachni Wars. Attempts to negotiate were futile, as it was impossible to make contact with the hive queens that guided the race from beneath the surface of their toxic home world. The emergence of the Krogan ended the Rachni Wars. Bred to survive the harshest environments, the Krogan were able to strike at the queens in their lairs and reclaim conquered Council worlds. But when Krogan fleets pressed them back to their homeworld, the Rachni refused to surrender, and the Krogan eradicated them from the galaxy.
Well, gee. Yeah, the one thing I do notice, I really liked the last mission that we were on, but I really don't think I appreciated the threat of the Rachni. Even in this write-up, like, I'm not entirely sure I appreciate the... I don't really feel like I'm justified in wiping out the species. So, anyways.
The Systems Alliance is an independent supranational government representing the interests of humanity as a whole. The Alliance is responsible for the governance and defense of all extrasolar colonies and stations. The Alliance grew out of the various national space programs as a matter of practicality. Sol's planets had been explored and exploited through piecemeal national efforts. The expense of colonizing entire new solar systems could not be met by any one country. With humans knowing that alien contact was inevitable, there was enough political will to jointly fund an international effort. Still, the Alliance was often disregarded by those on Earth until the First Contact War. While the national governments dithered and bickered over who should lead the effort to liberate Shanxi, the Alliance fleet struck decisively. Post-war public approval gave the Alliance the credibility to establish its own parliament and become the galactic face of humanity.
Hello, is it Zepex or Zepex?
Pharos is a habitable world in the Attican Beta Cluster. 2/3 of the habitable surface is covered with the ruins of a crumbling Prothean megatropolis. In the millennia since the Prothean extinction, the ruins have been repeatedly picked over by looters many times. Pharos was considered a poor prospect for colonization, as little open ground remains for agriculture. The only sizable freshwater sources are the poles, which are tapped by the decaying Prothean aqueduct systems. The dead cities, while in good condition considering their antiquity, are of uncertain stability. Ground level is congested by a dozen meters of fallen debris, and the air is fouled by dust. In 2178, the Human Exogeny Corporation announced its intention to place a permanent colony on Pharos to thoroughly explore the ruins. The pioneer settlement was placed on the upper levels of several intact skyscrapers, using the surviving Prothean aqueducts and rooftop hydroponic gardens to support the population. Noveria is a cool, rocky world with most of its hydrosphere locked up in massive glaciers. A privately chartered colony world, the planet is owned by the Noveria Development Corporation Holding Company. The NDC is funded by investment capital from 24 high-technology development firms and administrated by an executive board representing their interests. The investors built remote hot labs in isolated locations across Novaria's surface. These facilities are used for research too dangerous or controversial to be performed elsewhere, as Novaria is technically not part of Citadel space and therefore exempt from Council law. By special arrangement, Citadel's special tactics and reconnaissance agents have been granted extraterritorial privileges, but it remains to be seen how committed the Executive Board is to that principle. Given its unique situation, it is understandable that Novaria is often implicated in all manner of wild conspiracy theories. The Terminus systems are located on the far side of the Attican Traverse, beyond the space administered by the Citadel Council or claimed by the Human Systems Alliance. It is populated by a loose affiliation of minor species, united only in their refusal to acknowledge the political authority of the Council or adhere to the Citadel conventions. Their independence comes at a price. The Terminus is fraught with conflict. War among the various species is common, as governments and dictators constantly rise and fall. The region is a haven for illegal activities, particularly piracy and the slave trade. At least once a year, a fleet from the Terminus invades the nearby Attican Traverse. These attacks are typically small raids against poorly defended colonies. The Council rarely retaliates, as sending patrols into the Terminus systems could unify the disparate species against their common foe, triggering a long and costly war. There are between 200 and 400 billion stars in the galaxy, and less than 1% of them have ever been visited or had their systems properly surveyed. Humanity's early expansion into the Attican Traverse was haphazard, a desperate race to claim habitable planets where populations can be economically settled. Ignored in the wake of this land grab were thousands of less hospitable worlds, each potentially rich with industrial resources. The wealth of entire solar systems lies untapped, waiting for corporate survey teams or independent pioneers to discover and exploit them. However, this is not an easy task. In addition to the environmental hazards, the fact that uncharted worlds are largely ignored makes them popular bases for criminals, revolutionaries, cults, and others who wish to remain unnoticed by galactic society.
Hello, Jesse Quill. Guys, for those of you who don't know, Jesse Quill was streaming Dead by Daylight earlier. I was on the birthday party, so I didn't get to show off my sub badge. But I hope you had a good time of it. I don't know if you switched into anything afterwards. But Jess is another caster on Twitch. I apologize for not doing a more elaborate shout out, but I'm an hour in and I haven't actually done a mission yet. And I'm probably going to be a little short on time. But I suspect she'll also be doing some more Walking Dead as more episodes come. I don't think they released the full series all at once. So I know she's been doing that, and she also recently did This Is the Police 2, which I know somebody had recommended during the Cultist Simulator stream. So, Asari government. The Asari came late to the concept of world government. For centuries, their homeworld of Thessia was dotted with loose confederacies of great republican cities. The closest earthly equivalent would be the ancient Mediterranean city-states. Since the Asari culture values consensus and accommodation, there was little impetus to form larger principalities. Rather than hoard resources, the Asari bartered freely. Rather than attack one another over differing philosophies, they sought to understand one another. It was actually really nice to, kind of get out with sort of a group of people. I mean, I don't like drinking before I go on a cast, but I can't choose the order of things. Only in the information age did the city-states grow close. Communication over internet evolved into an electronic democracy. Asari have no politicians or elections, but a freewheeling, all-inclusive legislature that citizens can participate in at will. Policy debates take place at all hours of the day in official chat rooms and forums moderated by specially programmed virtual intelligences. All aspects of policy are open to plebiscite at any time. In a given debate, the Asari tend to lend more credence to the opinions of any matriarchs present, nearly always deferring to the experience of those millennia-old wise women. Achieving consensus through public debate may take too long in a crisis. In cases where prompt decisive action is required, the Asari defer to the wisdom of the local matriarchs. I guess it's the beacon? We already read this, though. Okay, so non-council, right? Quarians. The migrant fleet has a little economic base, operating in a state of perpetual hand-to-mouth. While Quarian ships include light manufacturing and assembly plants, they lack heavy industries such as refining and shipbuilding. The fleet has tankers for water purification and oxygen cracking, but the space-intensive nature, of agriculture limits food production. A single disaster could destroy the fragile balance. The Quarians earn income in creative ways. Because the government is obliged to provide food, water, air, and medical support for every individual, the Conclave strategically determines the course of the fleet to bring in resources and income. A species who suspects the migrant fleet is heading towards their space often offers a gift of surplus starships, fuel, and resources to convince the Conclave to alter course. As the fleet passes through a system, swarms of mining vessels work over asteroids for metals and siliceous materials and cometary bodies for water, ice, and organics. Quarian miners are adept at locating and strip mining spaceborne resources. This sparks conflict with corporations already working the system. Large mining concerns spend millions on lobbyists and public relations portraying the Quarians as locusts devouring the resources of a system before moving on. The greatest assets of the Quarians are their rarefied skills. Most are experienced miners. Due to their life of perpetual salvage and repair, they are skilled engineers and technicians. More than once, the very corporations that lobby against the Quarians have made backroom deals with the fleet, arranging for skilled Quarians to fill space engineering jobs that other species would demand higher wages for. Quarians are widely hated across the working classes. The Quarians are coming to take our jobs is a common response to the fleet's approach. Due to the Quarians' precarious existence and the need to enforce strict rationing, government is somewhat autocratic. The migrant fleet's operations are directed by the Admiralty, a board of 5 military officers who are advised by a legislative body called the Conclave. Each vessel in the fleet has the right to send representatives to the Conclave aboard the flagship. The number of representatives is based on crew size. Larger clans, with bigger ships and more votes, form the cores of political blocs. Opposition comes from the Outriders coalition, with delegates from thousands of smaller ships. The Admiralty defers to the Conclave's decisions in most circumstances. However, if all 5 members agree that a Conclave decision jeopardizes the survival of the fleet and cannot get the Conclave to address their concerns, they have the right to summarily overturn the legislative decision. After the Admiralty uses this extraordinary power, they must resign. If the Admiralty does not step down after using their veto, the rest of the military is obliged to arrest them. Each ship captain has authority over his vessel, but is advised by an elected civilian council, just as the Admiralty is advised by the Conclave. This relationship may range from cooperation to polite tolerance to outright hostility, but any captain who overrules his council without good reason is relieved of command by the Admiralty. Many Quarian ships are owned by clans who pool their resources to purchase used vessels from private sellers. Large ships are prestigious for big, rich clans, but a small ship means status for a small clan with enough personal wealth to afford a private vessel. Clan vessel captains are not subject to dismissal by the Admiralty. Abusive captains are a family problem if they do not disrupt the operations of the fleet. Again, I'm fascinated by this species. So. The Migrant Fleet. The Migrant Fleet is the largest concentration of starfaring vessels in the galaxy, sprawling across millions of kilometers. It can take days for the entire fleet to pass through a mass relay. When the Quarians fled their homeworld, the fleet was a motley aggregation of freighters, shuttles, industrial vessels, and the odd warship. After 3 centuries, all have been modified to support larger crews as comfortably as possible. As the Quarians achieved stability, they began weeding out the ships least suitable for long-term habitation, selling them and pooling the money to buy larger and more space-worthy hulls. The process is ongoing as vessels wear out and break down. While some ships enjoy dedicated captains with full privacy and sanitary facilities, many more are former freighters whose cargo bays and containers are pressurized and divided into family spaces using simple metal cubicle bulkheads. The Quarians enliven these austere spaces with colorful quilts and tapestries, which also help muffle sound. The day-to-day operations of the fleet, traffic control, station keeping, supply distribution, and so on, are under military jurisdiction. Their ship captains have the authority to deviate from their assigned positions and may leave the fleet at any time. They are assumed to do so at their own risk. As the migrant fleet moves through the galaxy, many ships split off to pursue individual goals, returning days or years later. Yeah, I mean, the reading is the only good thing I can do in Mass Effect Apex. Alright, let's see how many... looks like we only have 2, so human diplomatic relations. Humanity has encountered many galactic species. Wars have been few, but mistrust is rife. Politically, the Alliance is a peaceful trade partner of the Turians. As a practical matter, however, there is a simmering antagonism and bigotry between both populations over the First Contact War of 2157. The Alliance enjoys good relations with the Asari, though many privately believe the matriarchs are aristocratic and overcautious. Though humans know better than to unconditionally trust any Solarian, their shared restless, reckless ways have made them natural allies against the conservative Turians and Asari. The Krogan have no unified government, but individuals are generally treated as potential criminals, a reputation that most Krogan enjoy living down to. The Alliance has no formal contact with the Quarians. Their migrant fleet has not yet passed through any human-settled systems. The Batarians are rivals for control of the Skyllian Verge. They severed their treaties with the Citadel to prosecute a colonial conflict against the Alliance. Officially, there is no war, but neither is there any peace. And military ranks. The Alliance uses a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank-and-file enlisted personnel, experienced by non-commissioned officers, NCOs, and specially trained officers. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fighter squadrons are. This unity of command is imposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, an army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. In ascending order of responsibility, the ranks of the Alliance are enlisted, serviceman 3rd class, private 2nd class, serviceman 2nd class, private 1st class, serviceman 1st class, corporal. NCOs, service chief, gunnery chief, operations chief. Officers, 2nd lieutenant, 1st lieutenant, staff lieutenant, lieutenant commander, staff commander, captain major, rear admiral general, admiral, and fleet admiral. And that is your window into the world of Mass Effect. I'm also getting a little bit of feedback on the quality of my... I'm sorry guys if my voice is a little off today. Unless you guys prefer it, at which point I need to find a way to recreate it. Okay, finally I do need to... I think Pharos is... yeah. So I think the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to go to Pharos, and I might do some of these missions on my own. It sounds different, but not off.
Good timing, Commander. We got a transmission coming in from the Citadel. Top priority clearance.
Is it the Ambassador?
It's not his signature. I think it's from the Council. I'll patch it through to the comm room.
Damn it, Joker!
Commander Shepard, we've received information that may be critical to your mission against Saren.
I'll take all the help I can get.
We've received an urgent message from one of our infiltration regiments in the Traverse.
You mean spies?
Spectres tend to attract attention, Commander, but they are only one arm of the Council. Special task groups are often a better option for monitoring developing situations.
We currently have several infiltration units scattered throughout the border regions of Citadel space. This particular unit was gathering intel on Saren.
What did they find?
Unfortunately, the message we received was little more than static. The infiltration team must be in a situation where they can't set up proper interstellar communications. But the message was sent on a channel reserved for mission-critical communications. Whatever they were trying to tell us, we know it was important. Considering your interest in Saren, we thought you might want to investigate this. Find out what happened to our team. The signal originated from the planet Vermeer.
I'll look into it.
The Council prefers not to become involved in the specifics of Spectre activities. We only want you to be aware of all your options, including Vermeer. Good luck, Commander Shepard. We will keep you advised if we learn anything else.
I was gonna say, that sounds a little bit more like Hey, could you please find out what happened to our spies for us, rather than this is actually important for Saren? Oh, you know what? I don't think I know where Pharos is. So if memory serves, we already checked these out, but I want to take a quick peek. Yeah, we're good. We definitely already went to that system. Okay, so we'll do Hercules and then Pharos, just again so I can maximize the loot.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Normandy, this is Alliance Command. We're detecting your presence in the Attican Beta Cluster. One of our surveillance drones was gathering intel on Geth activities in the region when it was spotted and shot down. You need to go groundside and recover the drone's data module before the Geth find it.
It's not my job. Zetheron is a small rock planet with a thin atmosphere of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. The surface is scorching hot and mainly composed of sulfur with deposits of boron. Boron, more like borin. Proximity of the energetic star Hercules causes constant blue and violet aurora in Saided's nitrogen-argon atmosphere. During periods of increased solar flares, the aurora are bright enough to read by on the surface. It can be seen with off-the-shelf optics from a distance of several AU. Saided's scorching hot surface is mainly composed of magnesium with deposits of iron. A surprising variety of simple carbon-based life flourishes in a complex network of cave systems that wind through the crust, protected from Hercules heat and radiation. Medallion recovered. While scanning Saided, you discover a large debris field in geosynchronous orbit. Chief Engineer Adams conducted several detailed sweeps of the area and detected a few items of interest, including the League of One medallion encased in lead molding. Oh, by the way, guys, during the birthday thing, so there's this dice game that it's by Steve Jackson's Games. It's basically a zombie based one. It's actually a really neat idea. So what it is, there's a tube of dice. You have to take 3 at any given point, and there are green dice, yellow dice, and red dice. And there are 3 outcomes on each die. There's basically a brain, a walk, and a shot. And the idea is if you get 3 shots, you bust, you don't get any points. And then for each brain that you get, you keep those. And the idea is you can choose to re-roll as many times as you want. You always have to roll 3 dice. And so you want to try and gain as many brains as you can without, getting 3 or more shots. And the red dice have a higher probability of shot, whereas the green dice have a higher probability of getting a brain. And what was really interesting was there's a guy who, at least 1 or 2 of you will remember, they are so loud and so obnoxious that I have actually sent Snapchat messages, and fairly extended ones, on how they were very literally ruining my night because I couldn't put headphones in. They were so loud that they would actually pierce through the headphones at full volume. So it turns out that this guy was at the party, and I did a reasonably cautious play because, economist, right? I have a reasonable grasp of probabilities. And, I made my decision or something like that, and then there's the round going around, and he for whatever reason he singles me out, and he's just shouting, "What's your score? What's your score? What's your score? What's your score?" And so 2 rounds later, or not round, but 2 people later, I just quietly, roll my dice and I work. And like there was one move where it was a relatively cautious decision, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just sweep in the dice that I want out of this because I don't like my odds on this remaining one. And of course, because I didn't go for the risky play, everyone around the table is convinced, I'm just some soy eating, I'm not even a man. So after he's repeating, what's your score? What's your score? I don't even know if he was higher than me, but anyways. Just quietly sit down, I roll my dice, and I get exactly the 4 that I need to win the game. And I just, I turn to the birthday person who had this, like, I just won. She's like, well, everybody else gets a turn on this one. It's like, yeah, I just won. And sure enough, everybody goes around. It's not even close. So, the reason I was reminded by that is if you look in my highlights, there is a clip from the game Tharsis called Probably Overthinking It. And it was exactly like that moment where there's like basically 5.5 minutes of explanation of some probability theory behind a decision that I need to make in the game, and then there's the conclusion. So I don't know. I felt really good about that. But it was mostly just I saw the Tharsis clip, so. Warning, level 1 toxic hazard. Elatina appears to be a world eminently suited for colonization. Sadly, appearances are deceiving. It is covered by a verdant carpet of mosses, algae, and lichen, and possesses a thick oxygenated atmosphere. But the animal kingdom is a web of microscopic symbiotic creatures. They are impossible to filter from the air and necessary for the native life to thrive. Unfortunately, they also cause anaphylactic shock when inhaled by non-native life. In short, settlement requires either fully sealed environment suits or the replacement of the entire world's ecosystem. Some have proposed limited colonization at altitudes above the symbiote's range or in areas where favorable winds keep the air clear. That was a pretty good game, though. I'm surprised. Like, I always like games that are able to economize on pieces. Like, I don't think you can get simpler than just dice, but it was a pretty satisfying game. I maybe wouldn't necessarily buy it myself, but yeah. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, it's, everybody I talk to knows within minutes that I have a background in economics. But yeah, like, it's not a secret that that's a field. Like, I'm not actually. So this is one of the funny things. Like, I'm going through some of my econometrics books, and I'm learning how much I struggle with some probability concepts. Like, this is the funny thing. I should not necessarily be able to do probability as well as some of the other things that I do in my work. But, like, I'm also not, like, totally ignorant of it. So, so.
This is the surveillance drone. But where's the data module?
A monkey-like creature seems to have made off with the data module.
This will not be easy.
Multiple monkey colonies, eh? But yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the big thing. Like, I do know what it's like to be, like, unintentionally loud. So, like, where I can, I try to be tolerant of it. The only thing is that if it becomes something where it's like, it's fairly late at night, and I think there's the possibility that some people will be, like, bothered by it, or it'll like create friction. Like, I try to be, like, the thing, I hate being told to be quiet, and I hate saying that to people, and there's really no good way. People will always react negatively to it, and it sucks. I wish there was a better way of it, but, like, on the chance that it will create more discomfort down the road than letting it fly, like, I'll try and say it. But, like, to just, go to someone and, like, during a game, just aggressively, like, what's your score, like, and even to, like, literally said it 10 times, it's just like, okay, I now have a personal problem with you. Well, crap. Where is it? Where is it? Ah! Oh, I don't think we got that one. There's a guy sitting behind you in a convention in a crowd who shouted his opinion loudly at every little thing to the point of causing you physical discomfort. He was a dick and a half, yeah. Again, like, it's... It's a context. Like, I'm kind of conscious of it when I stream. Like, I try not to be too loud when I stream, even if I'm getting really into the game. Because, like, if it's, you know, 1 or 2 in the morning, like, I can remember having to be up for work on some days. And, like, it can be awful to have a neighbor who does not let you get some sleep. But on the other hand, like, I really don't like shutting down people's ability to express themselves. So, you know, on the odd chance that somebody's over, like, I genuinely feel bad if I say it's like, you know, could we just, you know, make it slightly more quiet? Well, damn it, that wasn't as good.
Audio.
I should have had that queued up before, but that is our tradition whenever we survey heavy metals. That is the second result that you get when you search for royalty-free heavy metal music. And I still don't know why people complain about driving the Mako. I actually find it perfectly enjoyable.
Heading out.
I'm sorry, Sin, you weren't using all capitals. What was that you wrote? I don't like why... I didn't draw my weapons there. So I'm slightly concerned that the game drew my weapons for me. You're watching something on the screen? Why are you watching a stream online?
Finally, some action.
Nope. Is it a screaming stream? A stream of people screaming at each other? I'm so confused.
Shepard needs help!
Oh Jesus, why am I dying? Oh, because of the toxins. This is for you, Sin. Is there a way around that? So, one thing I kind of like about Mass Effect, I was chatting about Sunless Sea with a coworker. Kyle B, thank you very much for that host. I was chatting about Sunless Sea with a coworker, and he basically said how much he did not like that game. And one of the things that I think works well for me for that game, but I understand where people don't enjoy it. How you doing? Or were you streaming tonight? The amount of time that it takes to go between ports is very long. And so if you are not fully invested in the game, it can be a big turnoff. Now I like it because it's sort of this like mental rest in between locations that, in my opinion, really sort of sells the game. You tried Overwatch again after a while, but you switched to World of Tanks. Oh, interesting. I actually just read, a SAS article on World of Tanks. I don't know if they're still using SAS, but I was like hearing about sort of the data techniques that they put towards particular problems. Anyway, so one of the things I do like about these Mako and like the exploring planets things is I could completely understand me playing Mass Effect and like not doing any side quests or not doing any planetary exploration, but I do sort of like the idea that I get to opt in. I get to sort of go through this world at my own pace and sort of just see some of the stuff going on around. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I think it has the same function that it does in Sunless Sea, which is, you know, it's not just that I'm sitting down and reading lore and then shooting stuff, but like to be able to explore these worlds again. It's also not just an homage to Starflight. Like I actually find it's this nice little palate cleanser between interesting science fiction moments.
That's the last of them.
I hope this isn't the outside. Okay, good. I always get turned around in these kinds of levels. There's gonna be Geth coming. You don't put explosives in a level unless you plan on using them. And again, it's one of these cases where, like, if you don't like it, so this is, I think, one of the things that causes people to sort of bristle at Sunless Sea is that Sunless Sea makes you go through that more sort of stately pace, whereas Mass Effect, if you just want to mainline the story, like, you can get through it at a fairly decent clip without too many interruptions as far as, like, you know, planetary exploration. is concerned. But I also think you're probably missing out on like the main experience. I'll try both ways. Yeah, I mean, I think this is not a new opinion about Sunless Sea. I think the biggest problem about it is the fact that because there's no variety in the opening content, the idea of losing all your progress is even more severe because it's easier to get tired of, like, you know, visiting the Three Sisters and things like that. And I believe from the Kickstarter that was a pretty clear decision that they made on Sunless Skies to remedy. But it's like Cultist Simulator, right? Like, not everybody's gonna like Sunless Sea, and I think Fail Better is okay with that because it's actually, this was in response to a tweet that I put out.
He dropped the data module.
Where?
It is a miracle the data module is still intact. Your pilot should be able to relay this info to your superiors.
But yeah, I've been trying to watch the behavior of video game prices on, like, the rankings of so, like, this is the challenge that we have. Steam doesn't allow developers to publish individual, like, Steam level sales information. They always have to give, like, total units, which will include all platforms. You can't say what you sold on Steam. So the only real public information that we have is this ordinal ranking of, like, highest selling. So if you're number 1 on the Steam charts, you know, that's public information. If you're, like, number 50 on the Steam charts, that's public information. Now, there's actually a statistical technique for dealing with that. It's called ordered probit and ordered logit. And in this case, this is when you have, like, you're trying to determine an outcome which the order matters. So being number 1 is different from being number 2, but the magnitude isn't larger. So for instance, going from 1 to 2 does not mean that you've doubled your value. The sales of the top selling game do not double from the second position to the 1. They can, but there's no rule holding that together. So there's a statistical technique to handle that. But then, of course, if you want to build a regression model, you need to say, well, what are the things that determine the success of a game on Steam? And I'm sure if I knew that, I would be in a very different career. So I've been trying to see how I can work with that kind of data and try to make some sensible things in terms of what happens to games when they go on sale and such. And one thing I noticed is that, like, AAA games, even, like, lesser known ones, have totally different behaviors from indies. Like, it's weird, but it was kind of neat because Alexis Kennedy retweeted it and said, you know, this is true, and that's not even necessarily bad for indie developers. And he shared a tweet from his really good GDC talk. If you haven't seen it, it's intensely practical tips for running an indie studio. And basically, on the left-hand side of the frame, there is, like, the armored personnel carrier from the movie Aliens, and it's just got, like, paragraphs of text from, like, an Alien fan wiki. And then on the right-hand side, you've got Newt, and it's like, Newt has got a second degree citizenship award, and she's good at hiding in vents. And it's very clear the difference. Like, you know, the APC gets destroyed pretty early on in Aliens. Newt survives much longer, and in this case, the nimbleness and sort of the scrappy underdog role of the independent game can be an asset. And so the idea here is you don't want to turn Sunless Sea into a game where you can fast travel between locations, because then you miss out on the more meditative aspects, the things about the exploration that I enjoy in Mass Effect. In this case, Sunless Sea has said, we are going to force that on you. And it's something that definitely turns people away. I've now got 2 people who said that I sort of thought that they might like Sunless Sea, and it turns out that they don't, which is a shame. But obviously the success of Sunless Sea doesn't need to be elaborated on. And so in this case, it is better to sort of build to that dedicated fan base that is willing to try something strange and experimental with you than to try and pursue. It's a little bit like streaming, actually. So in theory, if, I tried to be ya boy YOLO swag 69 360 no scope 420 blaze it, maybe I'd have more people watching, right? If I didn't have these little monologues in between, I might be a more entertaining caster to watch. But I'm assuming you guys can get that somewhere else, but you don't necessarily get to hear these weird little tangents. Where else are you going to hear about ordered probit on a stream? So I try to be Newt. I try not to be the armored personnel carrier, but. And sorry, Kai, I missed a little bit of what you were saying. I'll try and catch up when I'm done being a hacker. Yeah, I actually haven't done too much endgame stuff in Sunless Sea, so. Oh my god! It's like shooting clay pigeons. Oh crap. Okay. Somebody kill this thing! Alright. So here's a great example of the difference between Doom and Mass Effect. So the way that the healing... So obviously the way the healing works here is to stop me from becoming overpowered in combat and just like hammering down on the metagel when I go running in. But the drawback here is that it's given me an incentive to hold back and not take any actions in the game, which obviously is not the most... Thanks, Tali. It's obviously not the most exciting way to play a game like this. And obviously over time, at least for Mass Effect 2, the combat gets a little bit zippier. I was going for the explosive, but...
I'm right here.
Right, so not the best combat in the world, but not the end of the world either, so. I suspect at least some of this has also been made easier by the fact that I've actually kitted out my squad with some decent gear. Alright, so I'm assuming I don't need to go to any more of the monkey camps. I might just try one if it's on the way, but I'm pretty sure the intention was to get us into combat with the Geth. So yeah. I mean, we've got one more monkey colony, which is on the way to Debris, and then we'll check out the anomaly and head on to our main story mission. That'll probably be the last mission for the night, because we're about 2 hours in, and it'll probably mean that I finish up at 2 in the morning, which I'm not crazy about, because I've actually got a lot of research to do for this thing I have planned for stream still. But I did want to try and do like a cast of meaningful length. So And it would be nice if I could do sort of like a main story thing.
Got it.
Okay, so I can't check them.
On your order, Shepard.
Let me in.
Lead on,
Let
Commander.
me in.
Ready.
Oh, there we go. It's like, I don't think that's the pathway it's claiming to be.
En route.
That wasn't on level ground. Oh god. Well, at least I'll be able to pack a little more punch with 2 more hours of streaming is a lot better than the accidental 5 or 6 hours you did of Mass Effect 1. Is it just you got so absorbed in the story, or you wound up spending more time on something you were planning on doing? I remember Cultist Simulator was the big one where on a weekend I wound up spending more time. But of course that's the one that has all the different timers which end at different intervals. So there isn't a clean break like Civilization or XCOM has. Ah, yes. So yeah, even though, like, obviously I have a really ponderous pace for my stream at the best of times. So obviously exploration is a bit of a that's a bit of a rabbit hole that I can head down pretty quickly. But as we were talking about before, like I really do like the idea that there's, so like I'm sure when the game was originally made, they probably had sort of this idea of, you know, how do we get exploration in the game? Because I think if you do a game that's inspired by Starfleet, that's just sort of one of the things you want to do. And then it's fairly clear that, you know, the RPG elements were sort of the stronger draw on the game, and so I suspect the exploration kind of started to take a little bit of a behind the, or like a bit of a back seat. But I don't know, like I do like the fact that you have some time to, even if you're not, like, I don't do these components and I'm like, my god, I'm on an alien world, this is so cool. But you know, I do sort of like the fact that there is this mental rest between, like, the big tentpoles of this sort of science fiction story that's being told, to be able to say, it's like, yeah, I'm going to check out some planets, and some of those planets I'm actually going to go looking for heavy metal deep cuts. Some of these planets I won't necessarily, like, send the rover on, I'll just do a scan from sort of from orbit. But to me it's a pretty neat system. Like, I like the fact that I have some time to sort of sit and just, you know, live in this world without necessarily having the plot, quote unquote, push me forward. And how you doing, Smock? This is no disrespect intended to Starship Troopers. Although, I'm out of curiosity, are you referring to the movie or the the movie or the book? Alright, so it looks like Strike... Oh yeah, well, obviously Striker 6 is the strictly dominant. And Hail Hydra. This is strictly better too. What a handsome outfit. So apparently... Oh no, it's the exact same. So Striker 5 is strictly better. I really need to figure out what I'm doing with these amps, because I feel like I'm not using them particularly efficiently. So obviously Lancer 5, strictly better. Although I suppose it would be better for me to sort of equip Garrus with it. Both the movies and the books, yeah. The movie, so I'll be honest with you, I'm sort of the opinion that, like, the movie didn't really need to be made because Aliens has been made. But, I've heard great things about the book. I've sadly not read it. I only have Stranger in a Strange Land, but I would really like to read, I'd really like to read more Heinlein. Hang on, I thought we finished this mission. Okay. Apparently it just sort of ends. Oh, I like Garrus quite a bit, actually. It's funny, like, I quite like the character of Rex as well, but not, like, to the exclusion of some of the others. I think probably my favorite... I definitely really like Tali as a character. I bring Liara just because of her biotics ability. I think probably when I played Mass Effect 2, I most commonly brought Tali and Garrus, now that I think about it. Zatoris is a hydrogen-helium gas giant with high-level decks of sulfur clouds. A layer of hydrocarbons had formed deeper in the atmosphere. Vast electrical storm fronts can be seen flickering from across the dark side. Nope, nope. The random draw didn't work. I mean, kind of. This isn't really metal, though. One more try. I give up. All right, that joke needs to get retired. It takes too many effort. It takes too many times to get right. All right, on to Pharos.
Commander, urgent message from Alliance Command coming in. I'll patch it through.
Don't you have any
This is
other...
Admiral Hackett from Alliance Command. We've got a situation here, and you're the only one that can handle it.
Why am I not surprised? Sorry guys, just a second.
What do you need, Admiral?
There's an Alliance training ground where we test weapons and technology in live fire simulations. One of the VIs we use to simulate enemy tactics in the drills is no longer responding to our override commands. It's gone rogue.
How many casualties so far?
17 Marines were killed in the simulation exercises before we realized what had happened. That's when we contacted you. VI support is critical to our military success. They process thousands of status reports and react in nanoseconds. No human can do that. But as advanced as this thing is at military strategy, it's still just a VI. It's not self-aware, and it's completely disengaged from any networks. That's where you come in. We need you to fight your way through the training ground of the VI core and manually disable it.
Can't you disable it remotely?
Our fail-safes aren't responding. The VI operates on a closed network. It can affect any external systems, but we don't have any direct access to its processes. We could bomb it from orbit, but the damage to the facility would be catastrophic. We'd prefer to have someone shut down the core. Someone like you. I know Spectres answer the Council, but you're still human. You're still part of the Alliance military, and right now we need you. The VI controls all the facility's weapons, drones, and automated defenses. You're the only one that can pull this off, Shepard. Good luck.
Yeah, don't worry about the possibility I might die on a minor mission. I'm only trying to save the galaxy. Saitao is shrouded in high-pressure atmosphere composed of carbon dioxide and sulfuric acids. The surface is composed of geologically young plains of volcanic basalts and rhyolites with high concentrations of carbon and radioactives. Saitao is rabidly volcanic. A dozen supervolcanoes, 50 to 120 kilometers wide, are erupting across the planet. Saitao's carbon content and constant volcanism make natural diamonds plentiful, if extremely costly and dangerous to recover. Okay, we're gonna skip over Pharos, because that's sort of our highlight of the day. Sharing. Sharing is a standard hydrogen-helium gas giant. The atmosphere contains traces of ammonia, methane, and surprisingly large amounts of water vapor, making the atmosphere a striking mix of browns, blues, and whites. Of sharing 60-odd moons, 2 of diameters of over 3,000 kilometers. Both have signs of former Prothean development, suggesting sharing may have been mined for helium-3. Prothean data disk recovered. The planet sharing displayed some strange readings while being scanned. Chief Engineer Adams pinpointed the source and located a strange object. Tally and Adams brought it on board and spent hours taking it apart. The purpose of the object is still uncertain, but it was Prothean in nature and contained a Prothean data disk. Quana. Quana's frozen surface is rich with heavy metals. And the planet's higher than average density suggests further mineral richness in its depths. The atmosphere is composed of nitrogen and carbon monoxide. The remains of a well-developed Prothean mining infrastructure dot the planet. Abandoned mines are connected to dead cities by collapsed maglev lines. Unlike the crumbling skyscrapers of Pharos, Quana's ruins are reasonably intact. Unfortunately, this only made it easier for looters to strip the silent necropoli of anything valuable. Light metal discovered. Scans of the planet Quana have revealed deposits of cobalt. Oh, that's a really good question, Kyle B. I don't know offhand. Logan is a standard hydrogen-helium gas giant. The survey team who charted the system 20 years ago reported many strange disturbances in Logan's cloud band, suggesting many remarkably large solid objects were present beneath the cloud tops. As the ship approached, however, they subsided one by one. These disturbances have not been reported again. Alright. Showtime. The Exogeni Corporation has founded a pilot colony on Pharos to explore the Prothean ruins that blanket 2/3 of the planet's landmass. The atmosphere is fouled with dust. Terrestrial travel is hampered by crumpled debris dozens of meters deep. There are indications that Pharos was a much colder world in the past. Pharos has 2 large moons, Orkan, the father, and Vardet. Colony founded 2178, population 300, capital exogeni building, orbital period of 3.2 Earth years, radius of 8,366 kilometers, day length of 30.3 Earth hours, atmospheric pressure 5.44 Earth atmospheres, surface temperature 10 degrees Celsius, and a surface gravity of 1.1 Gs. I think I might buy Mass Effect Andromeda. I kind of feel like I should have my own opinion about that game rather than take people's word for it. Because this is a really... The thing that I like the most about this is a really fun little fantasy to live through. Like, I'm not entirely sure I could say, like... I'm not entirely sure I could sit down and say, like, this is the checklist of things that I would want in a science fiction game, but, like, this is very much a... You know, I get to be a star captain, and I get to make, like, you know, rousing speeches, and I get to, you know, explore new worlds, and they're all interesting, and I learn about alien races, and I don't know, this is just good stuff.
Equalizing interior pressure with exterior atmosphere.
Look at that handsome
Logged.
outfit.
The commanding officer is ashore. Exo Presley has the deck.
Oh.
We saw your ship. Fidan wants to speak with you immediately.
Who's Fidan?
He's our leader. He needs your help to prepare for the Geth. They're making another push. Please, up the stairs past the freighter. Take cover!
I never want to be an extra in a science fiction game. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Let's get... Okay. I'm gonna overload this guy. And it's basically a paratroopers, so we'll get Tali to overload. And Liara... It's not a great... Well, you know, we'll get her to lift. Oh my god, please get behind cover. God damn it. Yeah, the infiltrator, Prodsy. Pretty sure that guy's not coming out. Of course it failed. What other horrible things does this game have in store for me?
All targets eliminated.
If it's eliminated, why can't I say... Thank you. So I will admit, I had a lot of trouble with this class when I started. But I sort of see... Yeah, it's the first time I've ever played the game. Well, okay, sorry. I should correct that. Like, I have played sort of the intro up to, like, first becoming a Spectre, was what I'd played before, but this is, like, the first full playthrough. I will admit, so I chose the infiltrator as, like, for character reasons. God damn. Let's get that level up in real quick. So yeah, I sort of made my decisions around like a specific kind of character that I wanted to play. I think I said I was gonna max out electronics and decryption before I put anything else inside pistols and such, so it's kind of boring, but those are my choices. And so Tali's pretty much just pistols at the moment, and apparently Liara can't do anything. But I will admit, I had a really hard time with the combat at the start.
Head to the tunnels. Make sure those Geth are bloody dangerous.
Glad to see some soldiers. Our numbers are getting ready.
The Geth will surely kill us all. How is a woman supposed to think with guns going off all around?
Sorry, something about guns going off all around?
How is a woman supposed to think with guns going off all around?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
How is a woman supposed to think with guns going off all around?
One more time.
Another attack.
While decrypting these logs, you found something suspicious. Several months' worth of human rations were delivered to an uncharted world where the Voyager in the Voyager cluster. The logs aren't clear, but it appears that they have been dropped off somewhere in the Amazon system.
The Geth don't kill us. The lack of food just might.
It's that human optimism I've come to know and love in this game.
The Geth just keep coming.
Okay. Oh, so actually I don't need to worry as much about that. Yeah, see, the funny thing about this game for me is, like, I don't really feel the need to... Like, so I sometimes feel like
Commander,
the combat's a little...
Glad they finally sent somebody to help us.
You're a bit late, aren't you?
Arcelia. Sorry, Commander. Everyone's on edge since...
Watch out! We've got Geth in the tower!
Protect the heart of the colony!
I sometimes wind up feeling like the combat's kind of... I don't want to say a chore anymore, but like... Sometimes I'm kind of like, I don't really feel like I should be spending as much time on this combat as I am. Just because... I don't know, like... It seems inconsistent with, it just sort of seems inconsistent with, like, the stuff that I really enjoy about this game, which is, you know, all the dialogue and learning things about the different alien species. And, like, whenever I ran into combat, it sometimes sort of felt that it was like, okay, I'm spending a bunch of time on this, but I'm not entirely sure I'm having a lot of fun. Like, obviously there's some sharp corners that I was running into a little bit earlier on. So I sometimes felt like the fact I was doing a lot of side missions which basically only have combat solutions, and so it was sort of like, oh man, like, it sort of feels like I'm going between these really interesting dialogue bits and these really uninteresting combat bits. But I think, number one, I've started equipping my squads a little bit more sensibly. And then I've also learned that the pistol's pretty strong with the infiltrator if you...
Die. Please, don't let me die.
Pistol's pretty strong with the infiltrator if you use this stuff at the right time. Yeah, I don't know. It's become a little bit less of a chore than it used to. So yeah, well, and this is the challenge, right? Because the reason why I chose infiltrator had nothing to do with the way that the combat works. I made the decision because I had an idea of the type of character that I wanted to play.
I believe we are headed in the wrong direction.
Stupid backseating game. Why'd you even give me the option? But yeah, so like it was something I sort of struggled with because I like the shepherd that I sort of had in mind was a special forces operative who is very much sort of go in, you know, as well, like, you know, everything that infiltrator implies, like go in. You know, it's a successful mission if nobody has any evidence that my character was there, and get the job done. And I kind of built everything around that assumption. But then I realized that the realities of the combat in this game didn't necessarily allow me to quite please help allies. What are you doing? God damn it. I thought I... Alright. Gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Not that old-fashioned way, unfortunately. Let's just back off a bit. But yeah, so like shotguns, everybody had sort of said from the very beginning that shotguns were really strong in this game, but like it's not... I didn't really want to build a character around like min-maxing combat. I kind of wanted to build a character that was like my ideal you know, my ideal clean-cut, you know, very Paragon-ish savior of humanity kind of character, which I sort of felt I wasn't able to do earlier on. Now I don't feel that way. I sort of feel like I've sort of hit an equilibrium, but damn it. These things are tough.
Update Faidan and get a vehicle safely out of the Normandy. The Geth base is our next objective.
I don't think there's anything cool for me to pick up around here, but let's take a quick look. Metagel would be especially helpful. Medical station sounds promising. Oh, here's a fun story. So, we're talking about enjoying Tali's accent and stuff like that. I did a small audition. I don't think anything will come from it. I did a small audition for a reading part in an independent game. I'm trying to do things which are more like, this is an established project that is looking for an audio component rather than trying to do something like sell my individual services to other streams. But one thing that became very obvious to me early on... Alright, that's gonna be a problem. Shoot him, please. Alright, well... that was a thing. But yeah, so, one thing I definitely learned is it is really hard to act. I can read stuff, but my acting is brutal. And part of it actually comes from the fact that I don't emote nearly enough. So it's like, it's very easy to feel like you're overacting on things. A really good example of this actually is Eyes of Sin shared some voice acting that she did for Elegy of Games stream. I thought that was spot on in terms of the just in terms of like the tone, what she was trying to capture. What I recorded had about... Oh, please draw your weapon. Okay. Had like less than a third of the... of sort of the power she presented. So, and this is one of the things that's sort of hard. Like, so in one sense, it's very easy for me to say, you know, I'll try and get over myself to, you know, to manage. Tally, please stop getting shot. It's easy for me to sort of like internalize this idea of like, you know, stop taking myself so seriously and just get down to like the acting thing. But the big thing is that I'm really used to reading to like people or reading, well, one person, but.
This valve looks like part of a large system. There are likely others we need to activate as well.
But like I'm not entirely sure I've ever really had a case where I've done sort of a sustained, like, I'm trying to portray this character in a serious or like...
The system has not yet activated. I do not believe we are finished yet. We should look for another valve.
Another valve. EA Origins, obviously. But yeah, I don't know, like, it's been an interesting sort of experiment. I'm trying not to waste too many developers' times with, you know, with auditions. And I'm obviously putting some time into seeing whether or not it's something that I feel like I can portray. But we'll see. The other thing that I've noticed, like, this is the other thing that's hard too. This is, I do not begrudge any streamer wanting to do this, but it 100% feels like every streamer is like, well, I do broadcasting, therefore I should be able to do voice acting in video games. And I obviously am playing the exact same game that everyone else is, but man, I really do not want to be that guy. I can remember seeing a few people with just this really awful sense of entitlement to, like, well, you know,
There, that did it. The system is active.
I stream, obviously I deserve this thing. But then, I mean, that's always kind of been a work ethic thing for me. Like, I don't like going in and sort of doing half a job on something if I feel like I sort of... If I feel like I left some effort on the table or just I could have done it better, I tend to brood over that for a while.
You don't want to go down there.
What are you doing down here?
Nothing I should be, and anything I shouldn't.
No! That was a good one. Very intense.
What's the matter with you?
Just invoking the Master's whip helps remind me I'm still alive. You're here for the Geth, aren't you? You're not the only one interested in those things.
Who else is looking for the Geth?
Not looking for. Looking to get rid of. They're a thorn in the side of the... Ah! Ah! Trying to get to the... Dying!
This one is no longer fit. We should leave him.
Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you even want help?
Help me? No. No one can help me now. I'd rather die fighting!
Fighting what?
Not that kind of fight. It's like running through a thorn bush. The more you struggle, time's up. Company's coming. Ask Fidan. Ask him about the... Ah!
Look out!
Well, I think one of the other things too is that you don't always... So if you're sitting in a booth recording something, you don't necessarily know like how it's going to be presented. So I have a feeling to a certain extent some of these actors are putting their like... You know, I don't think anybody wants to be like clowny or, you know, overacted character X. But obviously if the animations don't quite match up, you know, it's usually, people are usually not going to say, oh, well, the person making that model really screwed up the job. Usually it's going to be like, oh yeah, that actor was a ham.
I won't do it. I won't. I can't. I won't do it.
I don't know though. It's tricky. Like I think probably if I have any business doing recorded audio, it's probably in the form of reading books. I'm sometimes worried that the impulse for broadcasters to try to become voice actors is that voice acting seems like the kind of thing that could be, you know, it's like a modern version of a get-rich-quick scheme. It's like, I have a microphone, I use my voice on the internet, this is a viable career option, and it's easy to do. There are definitely not trained professionals trying to make a... Jesus Christ. You know, trained professionals trying to make a living doing this thing. So as much as I can, I'm trying not to approach it as like, you know, oh yeah, you know, I, a rank amateur, can, you know, just run in and do your job for you. But on the other hand, like, whenever I played games like Shadowrun Hong Kong or Dragonfall or Battletech, like, I have enjoyed portraying some of those characters. So that's sort of what inspired me to do that. Ooh. Of course it failed. There's something probably on the roof. Looks like this will be a pistol job. Or maybe not. Oh, Jesus Christ. Throw him, please. Jesus, okay. I'm fucked. Krogan's just ruined my day. I don't even know. So I feel like I was just really whiny about the streamers and voice acting thing. I'm struggling to kind of communicate the idea that I have behind it. I think the biggest thing is that, like, I think it's the same impulse that gets people to, like, play a game that they don't enjoy very much and say something along the lines of, like, the games industry doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make a great game, and my first game is going to be like an MMO, and, you know, adding multiplayer is easy, and all developers are just a bunch of greedy assholes who are trying to ruin awesome gaming, and, like, I'm going to be the one to make games, like, good. And I don't know, it just really feels like it just sometimes feels like streamers have this feeling that because they can get a few people to come in and watch them play a video game, that they are equipped with sort of the range and ability to take direction that professional voice actors do. I'm trying to do my best not to contribute to that. But thanks a lot for stopping by, Kaya LB. I'm sorry you got me at my my less worthwhile moment. I'm trying to find out what the hell's going on with this transmitter. I don't know why I did that, but I feel good that I did. Have a good one, Kaya. More hunters? Oh, cool. Bring it, dude. Ole! Varen falls dead, riddled with slugs. It must be the alpha male, the pack leader of these feral scavengers. I know a thing or two about being an alpha male.
All targets eliminated.
The old disabled vehicle was more willing to part with its still functioning power cell than one would expect. I still don't quite know why we're doing all of this. I obviously missed some dialogue. But that's fine, because I think this part of this is just me being a little out of it. Okay, so hard right. Anything fancy down here? I'm technically 20 minutes away from my normal end time, but I don't know if I'll get through this mission in time for that. So I'll do my best to get to like the end of the Pharaoh's story, but if it starts dragging on too late, obviously I'll use my executive authority to say no more Okay, well, that's just a free hit against me. I'm not even mad. Sorry, I realize this is not the most stimulating commentary. This is actually a really great example of... So, the mission we were on before was this really interesting sort of... Like, the Rachni story and following Benezia, I thought had some like really interesting sort of twists and turns on it, and trying to navigate the politics of the secret research facility seemed to be a really nice touch. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, and I don't know if it's because I wasn't paying attention or just there's different stakes going on here which I can't relate to as well. But I think one of the things that I struggle with when I play Mass Effect is sometimes when a mission is just reduced down to combat, I don't have a whole lot to talk about except you know, just responding to combat events which aren't very exciting. Again, I'm a bit of a broken record when it comes to this sort of stuff. But I actually think at least this game, I would maybe even say the series, is at its least interesting when it makes you fight people, which is funny because, like, you know, it's not that cover-based shooters are, you know, not fun to play. If anything, it's just more of a comment on the strength of some of the role-playing elements.
I'm grateful for what you've done, but your heroics don't impress me, Commander.
Go to hell.
What can you tell me about Exogeny?
Very little. I work there as a security officer. I know they were looking for artifacts and anything of value. That's what they do. They fund the colony. In return, we help them uncover buried treasure. It's definitely not as exciting as they make it sound.
Tell me about Zeus Hope.
I can't tell you much about it. You should speak to Fidan if you want to know more.
What can you tell me about the Geth? Do you have any idea what they might be after?
I can't tell you anything about that. I suggest you go to Exogeny if you want answers to those questions.
I get the feeling you don't like me.
How would you feel if you were hung out to dry by every government organization that ever promised to keep you safe? They should have sent a small fleet. Instead, we get one ship. And you're only interested in the Geth.
Tell me more about yourself, Arcelia.
I'm a rent-a-cop. I was hired to keep kids from writing graffiti on the walls at Exogeny. Then all this happened. I wasn't trained for this. I didn't ask for it. I just wanted to end.
Goodbye.
Commander.
The tower's secure. Thanks to you, Commander.
I'm just glad your colony's safe.
I appreciate your concern and your efforts against the Geth.
They may have been slowed, but they'll be back. They always come back.
Help me find what the Geth are after, and you'll all get out of here alive.
We don't know what they're after. They came, they attacked us, that's all we know. Their main base is at the Exogeny headquarters. A good place to start looking if you want answers.
What's Exogeny?
It's the company most of us work for before the attacks. They fund this colony. The Skyway leads directly to Exogeny headquarters. You can't miss it.
Of course, there's an army of Geth between here and there.
I didn't expect this would be easy.
Then maybe I can get this colony operational again.
What can you tell me about the defenses the Geth have set up?
I don't have any details, but I'll wager it's a lot more fortified than the command post.
They landed at least one Geth ship at Exogeny, and I've seen large walking tanks on the Skyway. Expect a hard fight.
What do you need done to get this place back on its feet?
We need those Geth destroyed.
Arcelia's right. There are still Geth in the tunnels. We also have more mundane problems like food, water, and power. I'm not sure where we stand on those matters. You should talk to the people overseeing them.
Is there anything I can do to solve your water shortage?
Maka Doyle has been assigned to that particular issue. If you have any insight to offer, please speak with her.
What's wrong with the colony's power supply?
May O'Connell is working on our power problems. She'd know more about it than I do.
You mentioned something about a food shortage.
Davin Reynolds is tasked with securing food for the immediate future. If you can assist, please speak with him.
I destroyed a Geth transmitter in the tunnels. They won't be a problem any longer.
Thank you, Commander. We're in your debt. You've taken a great weight off my shoulders. I just wish I had such good news for every problem.
Let's talk about Zeus, Hope, and Pharos in general.
Of course, Commander.
There's a guy living down in the tunnels. Is he one of yours?
That would be Ian. He's very sick.
Tell me about your colony.
Life is hard and often brutal, even without our current problems. Colonial affairs back on Earth told us we'd be beneath the notice of any raiders. I guess they weren't counting on the Geth. But, despite everything, there's something tranquil about this place, unlike anything I've experienced before.
How big was the original Pharos colony?
We were nearly 1,000 at the main site, 200 more at my outpost. When the first wave obliterated our defenses, we fell back to Zeus Hope.
What else can you tell me about Exogeny?
Exogeny funded this colony. Without them, we wouldn't be stuck here.
They specialize in colonization. In return for bankrolling the colony, we work for them. Their main goal is the retrieval of valuable artifacts or resources.
Except there isn't anything here. Or if there is, we didn't find it.
There's a guy living down in the tunnels. Is he
that
one
would
of
be
yours?
Ian. He's very sick.
He seems to be more than just sick.
He hasn't been the same since the attack. We tried to help him, but he wouldn't listen to us. I can't help my people if they won't listen, Commander.
Don't you have medical supplies? Something to help him?
I wish it was that simple. Ian was a good man I'd like to have with us. Please, Commander. I'd prefer not to talk about it anymore.
What else can you tell me about
Exogeny.
Their main goal
Except there isn't anything here. Or if there is, we didn't find it.
I wonder if that's what the Geth are looking for.
Perhaps. As she said, we never found anything of value.
Of course, the Geth could know something we don't.
I'll talk to you when I learn more.
Good luck, Commander.
Right, so I don't quite know if we have everything for these items, but we might as well turn in where we can, and maybe it'll give us some hints in terms of how the rest of this works.
Let her try to reap.
Davin does what he can. This work must be completed. You're the commander of the ship that just landed.
What do you know about the colony?
We just arrived a short time ago. It seemed like any other colony at first, but it's different somehow.
What do you mean?
It's hard to explain. It's kind of like... I can't describe it. You should speak with Faidan. He knows the colony better than me.
Are you the captain of this freighter?
Not originally. The captain died in one of the Geth raids. I'm the last crew member. We shouldn't even be here. The Solarian merchant promised us a fortune. I wish... I suppose it could be worse.
What's wrong with the ship? Isn't she space-worthy?
There's too much damage. Maybe if the Geth stopped attacking, I could fix her. Then again, if there were no Geth, I might just stay on a while.
What do you do here?
I'm just watching over the ship, making sure she doesn't get any worse. Nothing else. She's good for hiding in when those Geth come over the walls.
It looks like you're monitoring something.
No, well, just ship diagnostics. It's nothing. I should get back to it, but Faidan wants a report on... I should go.
Maybe I can help you. What are you trying to diagnose?
No, thanks, really. Now, please, I need to get back to work. This work must be completed.
Something funny going on there.
Commander, I was told to make my supplies available to you if you wish.
What can you tell me about Zeus Hope?
A fascinating place by all accounts, though the Geth have made it treacherous. You might like it here too if you gave it a chance, Commander. I never thought I'd stay in one place for long, but here? I will stay here.
This place is barely holding together. Why stay here?
I can't give you an answer to that, Commander. At least not one that you would comprehend. Why not try asking Faidan? Maybe he can tell you what I can.
Why does everybody want me to talk to Faidan?
What's your name, Solarian?
My full name is Goratu Heranon Maldinest Got Inost Ledra.
You got a nickname?
Humans usually employ surname and given name only. Inost and Ledra in my case.
Why's your name so long?
We are named for our origins. Goratu is my homeworld, Heranon my clan's country, Maldinest and Got are the city and district where I live.
How do you keep things in stock in conditions like this?
My list of consumers has shrunk significantly since the attacks, and few of those have time for shopping.
What's a Solarian doing on a human colony?
This Solarian goes where the credits are. Or I did. A well-stocked freighter can be a profitable investment on a new colony. But once I was here, I decided to stay on. The colony life grows on you after a while.
Goodbye.
Yes, good luck.
You're the one who repelled that last wave. They'll be back. And if the Geth don't kill us, we'll die of hunger soon enough.
Are you doing anything to remedy the situation?
I need to boost rations with Varen meat, but it's too dangerous. The Alpha Varen, he's huge and he's mad. Rabid, maybe. Totally uncontrollable. I can't do anything until he's dead.
I killed the big Varen. The rest are yours.
Excellent. I'll organize a hunt when the immediate threat of the Geth is gone.
Tell me about Zeus Hope.
The colony is growing. Or it was. But you should speak with Fidan. He is our leader.
Why should I speak with Fidan? Why can't you tell me?
I don't want to talk about that right now. Speak with Fidan.
Tell me about yourself.
What's to tell? I came here with my wife Greta, looking for adventure, a new life together. This isn't exactly what we signed up for. Of course, it would be much better without the Geth. We were really starting to enjoy the colony before they came.
I have to go.
Here, for your trouble. It's not much, I know, but it's all we can spare.
What is it with this Fidan guy?
Nice work with those Geth. Glad you showed up. I still need the power cells for this generator, though. I found these power cells in the tunnels. Are they what you're looking for? I knew they'd turn up eventually. Here, Fidan gave me some requisition money. It's all yours. Now if I can kick these power cells into place, I'll have this colony up and running in no time.
The water started running not long ago. Thanks to you, I assume. Now we just need to deal with the Geth and we can get back to growing this colony. Here, a few credits for your trouble. Thank you again, Commander.
I feel like a hero. Alright. So, basically the plan that I sort of had... Oh, I've also got Charm. Okay, so I'm going to wind up doing another point in Charm as well. So the plan here was to try and get all of the dialogue options and all of that unlocked. So it turns out pistols are a lot more useful than I thought before, so I'm not sure if I'm just going to put... obviously I'll put a point into Charm, but I'm not sure if I'm just going to mainline pistols for a little while, or divide between pistols and Spectre training. I have a feeling that if I just put the points into pistols, that'll give me the biggest benefit, and then I might just do Spectre training and like tactical armor or something like that, one-on-one. First aid is kind of helpful, damping is kind of helpful, although I don't use biotics as much as I probably should. And then tactical armor I could definitely benefit from because obviously I'm dying a lot, especially to those big sniper shots, and it will eventually give me some points for fitness. But again, obviously choosing to upgrade one ability means that you have to forego the points that you can put in the other things, and ideally I'll just be taking people out with well-placed sniper shots. So, moving right along.
I can't talk right now. I'm busy.
I think there's only one, yeah.
Commander, what can I do for you?
Some of the colonists are acting strange.
We're a close-knit group, Commander. Most of us have lost loved ones, friends.
These aren't trained soldiers. Nobody taught us how to deal with the horrors of war.
This is our home. We've watched the Geth slowly destroy everything that is important to us. Don't judge us too harshly.
I'll talk to you when I learn more.
Good luck, Commander.
So I'm not 100% clear what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Get to Exogeny headquarters. Take the elevator from Jew's Hope down to the Prothean Skyway. Use your vehicle to make your way to Exogeny.
Watch out!
God damn it.
I don't know how much more I can take.
All targets eliminated.
Well, hi there.
The last batch went south. What are they looking for?
We are receiving a weak comm signal. I cannot pinpoint its location through the Geth reports.
More chatter, Commander Shepard.
I thought I was supposed. This thing was supposed to make itself go up right. There we go. I'm sure one of these is the repair button.
Perimeter secured.
Oh, maybe I just don't have any repairs to do. God damn it.
She's my daughter. I'll wait as long as I have to.
Whee! The best way to dodge, apparently that's the best way to dodge, missiles. Apparently there's an enemy here that I can't see.
We've got movement. Some kind of vehicle. Not one of the Geth.
They've got us on visual. We must be close.
Dealing with the Geth is more important.
That's close enough.
Relax, Jong. They're obviously not Geth.
Get back, Juliana. Who are you? What do you want?
Commander Shepard, I'm here to remove your Geth problem.
You see? You worry too much.
And you trust too easily, Juliana.
I'm just glad to see a friendly face. I thought we were the only humans left on this planet.
Dan and some of the members of Zoo's Hope are still alive.
I thought you said they were all dead.
I said they were probably all dead.
They're surviving despite everything the Geth have done to them.
We know what that's like. Those damn synthetics are relentless.
I'll do whatever I can to keep them away from you, but I need some information.
What kind of information?
Ignore him. The Geth are up in the Exogeny headquarters, just a bit further along the Skyway.
Those headquarters are private property, soldier. Remove the Geth and nothing else.
I'm not interested in your company's secrets.
Commander, before you go, my daughter, Lisbeth, she's missing.
They shouldn't waste time poking around. We could do a proper accounting of our casualties after the Geth are gone.
That's my daughter you're talking about. She's still alive. I know it.
Where's your daughter, Juliana?
She was working in the Exogeny building when the attacks came.
Oh, yeah, there were several places she could hide. For a short time.
If she's in there, I'll get her out.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you.
How did you get split up from the Zoo's Hope colony?
Most of us live closer to the Exogeny building. Zoo's Hope was mostly used as a port. When the Geth hit, we scattered. Until you told us about the others, we assumed they were killed in the first wave. If we had known they were still alive, we might have attempted to join them.
They're fairly secure now. Maybe you should do that.
No. I don't think that's a good idea. We have no vehicles, and the Skyway offers little protection.
Like the building we're in now?
Listen, our best hope is to sit tight and wait for company reinforcements. They'll come eventually.
Do you know what the Geth are after?
I have no idea. We certainly haven't found anything of use. Something Exogeny is keen to remind us of.
We need to recoup our expenses. It's nothing personal.
Tell me about the colony.
We established ourselves here 4 years ago. Growth was steady until the attacks. Our biggest challenge has been the lack of resources. There's just so little here of value. Still, we were making a go of it. It was even starting to feel like home.
What brought you here?
I guess I thought this would be the start of a new life. I wanted to go where I could feel like I was making a difference. Instead, everything we built is destroyed. It's very hard not to lose hope.
Where's your daughter, Juliana?
Somewhere at the Exogeny headquarters, I hope.
What was the building used for?
Oh, yeah, we repurposed that structure to serve as headquarters for Exogeny. That's mostly offices with a number of light-duty R&D.
This is such a weird framing for that guy.
Exogeny is a master at repurposing anything and everything.
The company has to make a profit somehow, Juliana. Feros is a long way from self-sufficient.
Stay bunkered down until I find out what the Geth are after.
Of course. And please remember, if you see my daughter...
You can survive.
I was hoping you'd have a moment to speak with me. I've got a bit of a problem.
What do you need?
I need to retrieve some data. It's not a big job, but it pays well.
Sounds easy enough. What's the catch?
No catch, really. It's dangerous work, but not for someone like you.
What is it about you that makes people assume we enjoy being in harm's way?
It's not that bad, really. All you need to do is find my console at Exogeny headquarters and drop the data onto this OSD. It's that simple.
I'll look around if I get the chance.
I appreciate it. That data could be worth a lot of money. Of course, this all depends on getting out of here alive.
Tell me about the data I'm getting for you.
Plans for a few prototype mods? I'm a freelancer. Some of my mods are highly sought after.
Why work in the middle of nowhere if your skills are so useful?
Maybe I've got a bit of the frontier spirit in me. That, and the alternative is a bit too secure for my liking. Freelancers don't have to worry about security as much, so long as we keep a low profile.
Time to get moving.
Just keep in mind what I said.
How are we supposed to fight an enemy like this?
They wiped out our defenses in minutes. If I survive this, I'm going back to Earth.
Just can't get worse than this.
Why build a colony if you don't intend to defend it?
We've been trapped for days. I hope you can Get us out of this mess.
I don't know, the Alliance really wanted me to deal with that VI problem on Earth. You guys seem to be okay here, though.
In a few weeks, none of the colonists will remember this planet. These people had their shot. It's more than some get.
The frontier is a lot more dangerous than most people realize.
Would have been nice to find that out on my own, but I guess I don't get to play the game like other people do.
You owe us for this. The Skyway is crawling with Geth. Package is secure. We're leaving now.
Understood.
All targets eliminated.
Yeah, so I'm running into the difficulty right now of whether or not I want to sort of cut it at this point and just say we'll wrap up the mission on a future cast, or
Wait! Shut down the comm! We've got incoming Geth! Damn it! Shut down the comm!
it's not that I'm not enjoying this particular mission, but I sort of feel like if I'm, like, at the very least, if I can do a break in terms of this, like, I can get some of the dialogue, like, of the journals, like, so basically if the break point is now, I'm able to sort of break up these extended periods of time where I'm not really offering a lot of commentary because it's just me running from cover to cover shooting stuff. I'd be able to sort of break it up with some codices and just generally do a little bit more. I don't know, we'll make a little more progress in the Mako and we'll see whether or not. Yeah, I mean, so if somebody like says something about the ending on the assumption that I've never played the game before, it's like, or so on the assumption that I've played the game before, like, I can't get too angry about that because it's, you know, it's like finding out the ending of Casablanca. Like, you know, there's kind of a statute of limitations on that, and, like, you know, the movie was made, like, in the 1940s. Like, what possible, you know, thing were you waiting for, to, you know, to finally watch the show, right? The thing that really does bother me is the assumption that, you know, because somebody has played the game before, you know, suddenly saying, you know, how to play the game, or like, honestly, even stuff like, you know, oh, this bit that's coming up, like, this is gonna be awesome. It's like, well, you know, the game is, like, the game was not built with some, like, cognitive sommelier, you know, holding over your shoulder saying it's like, oh yeah, this reveal that's coming up is like super amazing. You really gotta watch that. Like And I totally get it. Like, people are really excited by a game, and, you know, they want to see a streamer react to a moment that meant a whole lot to them. But the problem is that the reaction gets destroyed the second that they say something like that, because instead of, you know, being confronted with the game as it is, it suddenly just becomes, it's like, okay, well, I guess chat's playing the game for me now. You know, they're gonna let me know all the, you know, there's a major plot point coming up, or they're gonna let me know that I should do choice A over choice B. And you know, I try to appreciate that it's well-meaning, but it is a drag. Like, it's one of those things that I consider to be a cost of streaming. So, and there's really no good solution to it. Like, I've tried to be as clear as I can, even on just the simple idea. Like, if it even seems ambiguous, like, just don't comment on it. But I also sort of get that people do want to talk about games. It's not necessarily the most elegant way of dealing with it, but I figure full motion during when fighting a rocket guy is probably the best bet. Don't worry, Liara. We'll wait for you. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of areas to go up and down, so I'm tempted to kind of...
Our weapons cannot touch a field like this. We'll need another way in.
I'm kind of tempted to say...
A one-way trip down, Commander Shepard.
Maybe we call it for tonight, and then I can sort of make slightly more meaningful decisions and not... I don't know, like, just generally, I feel like it would be nice if I could be a little more perky during this, because otherwise, like, if I'm dealing with tiredness and just having the you know, having the fact that I'm doing more combat encounters. I sort of feel like that just leads to extended periods of my silence, or just generally, like, not giving very enlightening commentary to the game. So I know I did say I wanted to try and finish a story mission tonight, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm gonna do this story mission in a way that makes anybody really excited about Mass Effect or does justice to the quality of the game. So sorry, Prodizzy says your way of dealing with the backseating is you take all that chat says about things you haven't researched yet as fake spoilers. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways. Like, so actually, here's a good example of how this went. Like, when I played... Okay, so if you guys haven't played L.A. Noire and you want to know how the story... or you don't want to know how the story ends, mute the stream for, like, the next minute. And I'm going to start talking about the spoilers now. So I was playing L.A. Noire, and some guy, thinking that they would piss me off, says Cole dies at the end. Now... like, that's not the sort of thing that I get too bent out of shape over, because it's a really weak sauce way for someone to try and ruin a game for me. There are very few games that have these kinds of endings of, like, you know, oh my god, I didn't see that thing coming and it blew my mind. And usually, like, a high-quality story with a surprising twist, like a Fight Club or something like that, is really enjoyable for the journey you go on, and really like one side is what was I gonna say, like the one side is just you get blindsided by that thing, and then the second journey is like, knowing this information, I get to see all the techniques that they took me towards there. So the revelation about what happens to the main character at the end of the story is not really that big, because I have no idea of the context under which that event happens. And so it's a lame way to try and spoil the game, just because it doesn't really reveal any of the emotional sort of underpinnings of that particular moment. I'm actually not that, like, the ending is just sort of like, okay, it wasn't the big thing for me. I actually enjoyed the journey of L.A. Noire a lot more. I think one of the things that really bothers me the most about sort of spoilers and backseating on games like this, it's twofold, which is maybe two or threefold. Number one, I really don't like the assumption that, like, I don't know what I'm doing and that there's a correct way of playing the game. Because some of my favorite moments in a game have been, have been getting lost and trying to get myself, out of a rut, or to learn a new technique. And it may be frustrating to watch somebody struggle with it, but like to me, that is very much part of playing a game and getting better at it. And more importantly, I do like studying how games give me information. So even if I'm slow on the uptake on a particular thing, like I do prefer my playthroughs to be my own. And especially for games like Cultist Simulator and things like that, I notice a real strong tendency for people to like feel that their particular way of playing the game is correct. And I've actually never met somebody who showed me a better way to play that game, even when they've been like, I usually don't want to hear it, but they'll force the issue anyway. And I've never been convinced that it's an objectively better way of playing the game. I think it's better for them, but I don't feel that that's better about it. So what I tend to dislike is the assumption of how underlying these ideas of talking about the order or whatever. It's like, I sort of understand people's excitement over wanting to see certain elements of the game, but I also sort of feel that unless it's explicitly a stream about like Twitch, if it's a Twitch plays or something like that, I can understand the difference. But I generally feel that in a stream, like, the assumption should be that the person is playing the game, they want to play it on their own terms, and they don't want to be given instructions on how to play it. Like, I think if you enjoy Mass Effect, the best way to play Mass Effect is with a mouse and keyboard or a controller on a home console. The least satisfying way to play it is by chat. And I think the least satisfying way for a streamer to play a game is to have chat second guessing them. Because there are other considerations. And I guess the biggest one for me is, like, for a game like Mass Effect, like, I kind of like the idea of it being my own playthrough. Like, I've said a few times that, like, I like the fact that you get to make the character do the speeches, and you get to pick the order of things and the way they react to certain events. And it's hard because a game like Mass Effect is one that people really enjoy, and it's a one that's relatively well known. So I don't like diminishing people's enthusiasm about the game. But I've never really felt the need, like, even when I find out there's like a really cool item, or there's like a really interesting plot point or something like that, there are very few times that I've encountered games where I'm like, I really wish that plot point came before this one here, because it would have made this decision more interesting. Like, usually when they're presented in this modular way, it's because the designers have sort of felt that you can do whatever path you find the most interesting. And like, usually I don't think there are a lot of games where the decision of the order really affects the outcomes. Telltale games are an exception to that, actually. So like the decision that you make, in terms of which building to investigate, will sometimes mean whether or not you can save a particular character. But in the end, like, the player is presented with options with sort of indeterminate outcomes for a reason. And I tend to find that like an enjoyable part of the game, and it's the one that I think is the most prone to being ruined, because in like one sense, people are like, well, if I only say a little bit, it's okay. But the challenge is that the constant drip of a chat doing that sort of stuff sometimes takes the ownership of the playthrough away from the streamer, and puts it in the hands of people who've already played the game. And I don't know, it just sometimes feels like the experience is being like, I definitely have felt a few times with games that the experience of playing the game has sort of been taken away because I streamed it. And that's not always a bad thing. Like, I do enjoy sharing games with people, but it really is a case where I think sometimes fans of games are sometimes its biggest enemy. There's a couple of really well-known story games that I actually haven't continued streaming on the channel because I wanted to enjoy it for myself, and the kinds of dialogue that was happening in chat wasn't conducive to my enjoyment with the game. Anyway, I'm tired. I am going to call it tonight. Sorry to end it so, kind of with a whimper, not a bang. But I will do my best. If I can do it on the weekend, I'll try and do another one of these. If I can't, then I'll try and do on Wednesday or Friday another Mass Effect, and I'll see if I can maybe get through like 2 story missions or that. On my own time, I might do some of like the mini, or I guess I can't do some of the mini missions like now because I need to finish this one, but I'm going to try and get through some of the stuff that doesn't feel as central to the main story as possible, because I'm noticing the points where I'm the most engaged is when there's sort of this, something like that first mission that we went on. I really enjoyed that, and it gave me a lot of stuff to talk about. So I think the more dialogue I do, the less combat I do, the more interesting these playthroughs are going to be. So I'll try and set that all up. So that's why you're reluctant to play games that you never played before. You don't like sport. Yeah, well, see, that's the challenge too, Clayzo. I'm sorry, I'm just wrapping up for tonight, but thanks for stopping by. Yeah, sorry about that. The real problem is, the reason why I still do it is that, like, so obviously, what I said probably has a more negative light. I do actually really enjoy playing games for the first time on stream, though, because I feel like you can't recreate that first impression to a moment or finding something new. And I like capturing that moment and sharing it with people. The only challenge, of course, is that if people are not respectful of the idea that, it's a first playthrough and maybe they don't want to be told how to play the game. And again, like, it is not a bad impulse that people have. Like, they want to share the game too. But I think just the fact that you're typing in a chat sometimes pulls you away from this idea that, like, so because it's a chat, like, I think if you were to be sitting beside someone and, like, always saying is like, okay, now you want to do this, and now you want to do this, and now you want to do this, like, it's a little bit more obvious how you're sort of horning in on the experience. But because it's chat and it's impersonal, it's a little easier to think that it's not as disruptive as it really is. And so I'm always trying to find better ways of doing the balance between allowing chat to enjoy the game while still retaining my own enjoyment of it. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry. I do need to get some sleep. So sorry to end it on such a long monologue. Let's try and find somebody to host tonight. I think Kilgore might still be streaming, but we'll see. Oh, yes, he is. And he's playing the Wheel of Time game, which is actually kind of interesting. Yeah, Clesio. I mean, I try not to say people. So there are definitely some people who are asses, and I don't mind like calling them out for that. But I think there are a lot of people who have genuine good intentions, and it's just not apparent in the moment. And like those ones, it's really just a matter of like trying to give the nudge rather than like, you know, raining fire down on them. But the problem is, even with a mod, like if somebody gets purged, people usually take that very personally. But anyways, I'd love it if you guys could come along with Kilgore Trout. Obviously, Mass Effect is an Unreal Engine game, and Wheel of Time is an Unreal Engine game, but they have nothing else in common. Kilgore is a great classic game streamer. He's on the GOG stream team. Wheel of Time was made in 1999. He's tried to stream it a couple of times. It's kind of an interesting game, but honestly, the reason to watch Kilgore is he played a lot of the stuff when it first came out, really enjoyed it, and I think does the best job of sort of communicating this love of classic gaming. He's got a great attitude, and he is just, I don't know, he's a really nice guy. And one of the reasons I encourage you guys to watch him, especially if some of you are broadcasters, like he's someone who achieved partnership at the time when it's like kind of under the current standards, which are some of the hardest to get partnership with. So in that sense, I don't know, it's just, he's a really great streamer to learn from as well as just to hang out inside of his channel. So if I've depressed you all, he will make you feel better. As always, we're tired of System Talk, heard this place was better. So I'll leave you in his capable hands. I will get some rest, and I will commit to you to be either more exciting with Mass Effect next time, or to play something that I stream a little bit better, like XCOM 2 and all that. So have a good night, everybody. I'm going to let this overly long goodbye finally die a peaceful death.